Hello everyone, and welcome to our coverage of the 12th annual Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival. Some of you may recognize us from last year. My name is Irina Crush, and I am a Grandmaster from the United States, and sitting next to me is the Ginger GM from England, Simon Williams. Gibraltar has long established itself as one of the best open tournaments in the world, but I think that this year it's gotten even stronger. There are 10 players over 2,700 and 27 players over 2,600, as well as some of the best women players in the world. What do you think about the favorites here, Simon?
Well, first of all, it's great to be back. So very happy to be back here again. So I've done the commentary for a number of years now. It's always a pleasure, such a great tournament. And well, going straight into the players, there's so many people who could win this tournament this year. I think we said earlier, only the sort of 25 top players have a chance of winning this competition. So it's really completely wide open. I mean, there's certain players who do well each year. Nigel Short, for example, tends to do very well at this tournament. Ivanchuk on board 3. Once 2 years ago, I believe, got 9 out of 10, which is a phenomenal score. So I think it's going to be extremely interesting. Be some big clashes coming up very quickly. I mean, maybe before we go into the chess, Irina, I've got to call you Grandmaster Irina now. Is that correct? Last year you're international master, and now you've got your Grandmaster title. So congratulations. That's great.
Thank you, Simon.
That's good stuff. And did you get that in Baku? Was that right? And,
yes, my final norm was at the Baku Open at the end of September. Also a pretty strong Open.
You look very strong, yeah, very strong. But I guess now that this tournament, the Gibraltar Congress, is probably the strongest Open in the world.
And voted by the ACP, I think, as the #1 Open in the world by its members.
I think, yeah, it's very good playing conditions, very nice hotel. It just seems to grow from strength to strength every year. There's other tournaments going on, so there's lots of amateur tournaments in the morning. You have great activities in the evening as well, so there's blitz tournaments, there's so many things to do. And if you're bored of chess, you can go and see the monkeys as well.
I was actually thinking that the one way it's been getting worse is that we don't see the monkeys as much anymore. I think they're not coming to the hotel as frequently.
I know. I think the chess players scare them away. Well, I think they're scared of chess players, monkeys, but maybe we'll see them at some point. But okay, we're going to take a look at a number of games today. So if we briefly just talk about some of the other players who we think are going to be main contenders, we have Mickey Adams on board 1, who's playing very well. Good chess, good solid player. He's won his tournaments on a number of occasions before as well. So he's the favourite on rating-wise. And well, you can probably look by just looking at the list of players that there's just so many players who can win this. I mean, Maxime Legrave is on board 2. He came first equal with Vichigov last year, and Vichigov won the tournament on tiebreak, so that was very interesting.
Yes, he played the tiebreak against Nigel.
Nigel, yeah.
Nigel,
right.
and there were 4 people who were tied for first place. It was Vichigov, Nigel, Vachier, and a 4th.
And the 4th. Yeah, I was going to say, I was hoping you'd remember the 4th.
His name is the 4th.
It'll come back to us.
Yeah, it will.
First day.
And it's kind of funny that Nigel wound up tying for first place despite losing a game to a much lower rated player early on. It was just an amazing comeback.
He bounced back very quickly and very well, yeah. I mean, good determination from Nigel. So it's very interesting. I mean, another reason I like this tournament is the tiebreak, because a lot of tournaments, a lot of open tournaments, they just share first prize. And in Gibraltar, they always play off to see who is the champion of the Open. And that's quite exciting, it's very quick games and there's a lot to follow for us and for the viewers back home. So just with this amount of good players, I expect there'll be another, unless someone has an amazing tournament, it's very likely we could be in the same situation this year. I mean, other players I personally like, I'd say Richard Rapport is a player who, he plays very interesting chess. Obviously, clearly extremely talented. Young Hungarian. I believe he was the youngest ever Grandmaster when he got the Grandmaster title. I know he got it at a very young age anyway. And he's just played in the strong Wake and Z tournaments and okay, maybe he didn't have such a brilliant tournament, but he certainly came out with some crazy ideas. And
well, actually, we do have the youngest grandmaster in the world playing in this tournament, the 14-year-old Chinese grandmaster Wei Yi, who is already rated over 2,600.
Right, so yeah, lots of talented players here. And Irina, what about the girls section, the female section? Because obviously it's a massive prize.
Oh, right. The women have a $15,000, a £15,000 first prize. So obviously that's going to attract a lot of the top women players in the world. The two top seeds are actually coming here straight from Wei Ganzei's B group, Anna Muzichuk and Zhao Shui. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do here after such an arduous tournament over there, 13 rounds, I think, right, Simon? In Wei Ganzei?
13 rounds, yeah.
And Anna did quite well there. I think she was ranked 4th at the end. And, you know, for a long stretch of the tournament, she had an over 2,700 performance. And Zhao Shui had a little, you know, underperformed a bit, you know, maybe by she underperformed her rating by about 100 points. So maybe she's going to be able to produce better form in the second event. Or, you know, they might both be a little bit tired just coming here straight after Wei Ganzei. There are 8 women altogether over 2,500. And the third rated is Bella Hotenashvili from Georgia. And this tournament, the women's section has actually often been won by a Georgian player. Nana Dzagnidze has won it on several occasions, Salome Melia also. Neither of them are playing this year, but Bella Hotenashvili, I think this is her first time here. I can't recall seeing her here before. And she is capable of very good results. She once had an amazing performance in the Women's Grand Prix. But she's also, you know, a little bit inconsistent, so we don't know what to expect. There's Pia Kramling, who's played here every single year since the tournament's inception in 2003. Yes.
12 years, wow.
Yes,
yeah,
every year. Yes, it's very impressive that she's been a part of this tournament for so long. You know, she's a very good player, a lot of experience, but you know, chess does tend to favor the young, so I don't know how she's going to hold out over this long tournament here.
Well, you tend to play yourself, Irina, because obviously now you're.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not describing myself in the list of players here. I was definitely.
I'd be commentating on your games then. Yeah, but, well, I'm glad you're joining me anyway for the commentary. So,
yeah, no, of course, when you see such a strong lineup, you really want to be a part of it, and you want to get a chance to face these players. I do have that feeling because I'm not a retired chess player. You know, I still have some chess ambitions, and I'd like to improve. But at the same time, I really do enjoy commentary. I enjoyed my outing here as a commentator last year, and so I didn't want to miss that opportunity either, because this is the only time in the year that I can do commentary, and probably I'll have more chances to play in strong tournaments.
Yeah, well, it was great to have you commentating. So yeah, and it's going to be very interesting, very exciting tournament. So maybe now we'll move on to the games. I mean, let's start with the top board game. So this is a game where top seed Mickey Adams is playing black. So I'll just bring this game up on the screen. Hopefully you can all see it at home. So, interesting opening here.
So, before, Simon, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make one little note. So we mentioned Wei Yi, one of the youngest talents in this tournament, the 14-year-old grandmaster. And there's also a very young player on the female side. Probably most of our viewers are not familiar with her, from Kazakhstan. Her name is... Actually, I should have remembered that better. Jansaya Amabek or something. I'm sorry. I think I'm doing worse on the pronunciation here than you are.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Unenvious job.
Jansaya, I definitely remember that part.
Yeah, okay.
No, she's like 13 years old, about 2350 FIDE, and you know, Kazakhstan is actually doing a lot to promote chess. You know, the Kazakhstan women's team, I think at some point they drew a very strong team in the Women's Olympiad last time around. It was just an absolute shock during the Olympiad. I think they actually drew China.
Right, okay.
Yes, China. They drew China. Can you imagine Kazakhstan drawing the Chinese women's team? And she was part of that team, and I think she's the best of their group of young players. So I think you know, we'll probably get to see her games here. Yeah. Maybe one or
definitely. Two. I mean, I think what we're going to do is probably concentrate on the interesting games from sort of the top 20 boards, and obviously the tournament goes on where concentrate mainly on the leaders of the tournament. Now, it was interesting this morning. I'm on Twitter myself under Ginger GM, which is, people seem to refer to me as that name more than my normal name when I'm at chess tournaments, which is all good in a way. But there's been a tweeting battle between two English grandmasters. The tweeting battle has been between Mickey Adams and Nigel Short. So I think Nigel Short commentated on Twitter this morning that he's neck and neck with Mickey Adams. We both have 4,985 followers. So who do you think is going to take the lead in the tweeting battle? Nigel or Mickey? This could be another thing we're keeping an eye on. So I know that's a lot of followers, that's a lot of people following Twitter, but Twitter's obviously become very popular now, and you can, like I said, keep in contact with me on Twitter. I don't think you're on Twitter, are you, Irene?
No.
Unfortunately. So, yeah.
I'm not on too much social media.
No, I can understand that as well. So, okay, so the Twitter battle has started, and maybe we'll see a chess battle between these two great English players as well.
And then they can tweet about it afterwards.
Exactly, yeah, yeah, and so we can see their different views in the tweets. So, so it's going to be interesting. Of course, actually, I mean, just looking at the games here, Nigel's played a very interesting opening. We'll come to that game very shortly. But let's start with a ball one encounter.
Okay.
Look at this game. So, would you like to introduce the player of the white side?
I wonder why you're asking me to do that, Simon.
Well, I'll do black. Mickey Adams.
Right.
So there you go.
Now, I'm glad you know how to pronounce the name of your country's top player.
Yeah.
But playing a white is a FIDE master from most likely Spain.
Yeah.
Sanchez, Jerez, Emilio, Miguel, and I hope you know his name stopped there, and they're not like 7 of them that
Yep.
I'll need to read. No, I mean Miguel Sanchez, for short.
And a FIDE master, and yeah, it's a very Spanish name. And well, he's played a very interesting opening, and the opening moves have come very quick and fast. So if we go straight into the game, so Sanchez is white, and he started with e4. Mickey has responded with e5. And I think generally, I mean, there's a lot of, I would say, mismatches today because of the rating difference between the players. So if you just look at the board one encounter, there's something like a 300-point difference, even more between the two players, actually a fair bit more. And what the higher rated players are generally, I think, going to do is just not take too many risks. I mean, that's the normal technique, I'd say, of playing against players low rated. They just want to minimise the risks in the game and try to outplay the maybe less experienced opponents. I don't know if that's a thing that you tend to do if you're playing someone weaker. Would you say you just try to keep it risk free? I don't know, lots of people have got different ways of dealing with it. I mean, actually I don't tend to do that, but I know a lot of people do. But okay, on to the game. So knight to f3, and Mickey nearly always plays e5, very solid way of meeting e4. Bishop c4. Now bishop to c5, and already in this position white plays a very romantic and old move, pawn to b4, so the Evans gambit. And this is really a move we don't see very often at top level now. And it's kind of a pity really in chess in general. I mean, gambit play is really becoming more and more reduced every year, and it's just because of the use of computers. And you know, if you stuck this position onto Houdini, which is an incredibly strong program, I think it'd probably find a good solution for black, and maybe this is what Mickey's done here.
However, we are seeing more of knight f3, g3, and b3 every year, Simon.
We are.
As we see less gambit play, we see more of another kind of play. Flank play.
Flank play, yeah, and quite slow build-up. I guess is becoming more popular now. I mean, this is the Berlin defence also is becoming incredibly popular, and I don't think there's been any way to prove an advantage really as white so far against the Berlin. So this just tends to be the way chess is heading, just because it's becoming harder to play in a sacrificial, crazy way. But that doesn't bother Sanchez. Sanchez doesn't care. He's going for the romantic b4 move. So Mickey has grabbed this pawn, bishop takes b4, and now c3, bishop to e7. And one of the benefits of bishop to e7 rather than bishop to a5 is it allows the knight access to the a5 square. So queen b3, something like this move, queen b3 now, if you just bear with me. Queen b3 is now met at some points, maybe even now, is it possible? Maybe not now, but at some point knight to a5 is the the idea behind.
Yes, I think you could
so.
try to play it right away, Simon, because on bishop f7, king f8.
Yeah, okay, so knight to a5 here, and if bishop to s7...
King f8. Now, where does the queen go?
What about queen to a4?
Yeah, maybe
here?
queen to a4, right?
So
I was hoping you would play queen d5 and let me play c6 and,
I can't be that greedy.
and let me cover everything. Queen to a4.
This looks slightly problematic for black. I mean, I don't think either of us really know the theory of the Evans Gambit too much, but I think the general kind of principle is knight a5. I mean, do you play
So
knight
you're going to play knight
first?
h6? That's the only other move, right?
Maybe knight to h6 is the theory, and then if d4,
then if d4, knight a5.
then knight to a5.
Yes.
Maybe something like this is the idea, but maybe any followers back home can get us up to date on the theory there. Okay.
It's nice that we're already asking our viewers to help us analyze the chess, Simon.
I know, move 6. Move 6 for standard position. We're doing well this year, so we've lasted 6 moves without asking for help. Okay, well I'm sure we know more about some of the other positions that turn up. Let's hope so. Okay, but d4, so I mean, I guess the compensation is really White's trying to prove that he's got a strong centre in return for this pawn and a very strong light square bishop. But the moves were played very quickly, and we won't spend too much time on this stage of the game. Knight to a5 was played.
So he's driving the bishop away from this powerful diagonal.
Yeah, so the bishop now has to move back to e2, which is rather passive square for the bishop.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's also some move like knight takes e5.
Sure, knight takes e5, maybe
Seems like a possible move.
Definitely. Is black's idea here possibly something like knight takes?
Yes, we've got to take, and d5, yeah. D5 is a very nice move that breaks up White's strong center, and I think black is already a bit better.
I think so, yeah, because of the 2 bishops as well, and the positions are opening up, and also if you have 2 bishops, that's very useful in an open position. So after knight to a5, okay, I mean, I'd bishop takes f7 would be the kind of move they play in, I don't know, 1784 maybe, I don't know, but probably nowadays you just can't play that. Something like bishop takes f7 check, knight takes e5 check, and you know, just play on. But okay.
Yeah, then you attack with one piece and hope it works out.
Yeah, one piece. But the queen will come in as well.
Yeah.
Like complete Patz's chess. But okay, bishop to e2 and now
d6. Yeah, it's interesting that he's just decided to give up his extra pawn, right? I mean, d6 doesn't seem absolutely forced.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, so d6. Yeah, I guess Mickey's just thinking I just want to keep a safe position here. So,
I mean, he could take on d4. Right, sure. we got to go to receiving moves.
Okay, yeah. So to try to hold on to the pawn takes d4 as possible. And now I guess White can either consider taking this pawn back with the pawn.
Right, cd4.
Looks perfectly logical now that the c3 square is available.
Yeah, the knight on a5 is not so nice looking.
Yeah, I mean, this is compensation.
Maybe d5.
So, yeah, d5, and now
you take
and go knight c3 possibly, something like this, and it's a bit of piece play maybe. There's some queen a5, queen a4 check maybe at some points, and I mean I expect this is theory as well, but I mean
maybe even
I guess
e5 was
e5. Yeah.
What do you think? Is it worth considering, or should White be trying to open up lines here?
I expect trying to open up the lines personally. I mean, I guess if e5, Black can now try to go for some exchange of a bishop g4. Is that kind of logical?
Maybe bishop b4, knight e7. Maybe.
Okay, and develop like
Do you want to try to develop that? So although.
Or maybe bishop d2 though, but something similar to this. I don't know, it doesn't look like White's got too much of the pawn really in this position, but I mean maybe you have to develop.
So it's maybe possible to take on d4 as well.
Yeah, I expect so.
Okay.
Okay, d6 is a safe option.
Yep.
And because Mickey was playing these moves so quickly, he's slowed down now, but up to around, I guess, move 10, 11, he was up on time, so he's obviously done some work on this, previous. Maybe his opponent always plays the Evans Gambit. And this is another problem, isn't it, in modern chess? If you play the same opening all the time nowadays, your opponent's going to be so well prepared for it, you really have to switch openings. And I know when I started playing, when I was playing 20 years ago, you'd have one opening as White, one opening against d4, and one opening against e4. And you didn't really need to switch, but now you have to switch, I think, to keep things flexible. So, okay, so d takes e5, Black now does this, and now queen to a4 check, so keeping the queens on the board.
Yeah, we can look at what happens if White would have traded queens. Queen takes d8,
Oops, that'd be a bad move. Already blundered my queen. Okay, so let me just put the receiving moves on. Sorry, so I'll just go back to this position. So instead of queen a4 check, it's queen takes d8.
Yeah, I think we have to turn off
Yeah, okay.
receiving moves, yeah.
Queen takes d8, and now bishop takes d8.
And when you try to regain the pawn with knight takes e5, black plays bishop f6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, black has a very nice position here because if you look, I mean, white was playing this gambit opening, but actually all of his pieces are not developed yet. Mm-hmm. The rook on b1, knight on rook on a1, knight on b1, bishop on c1, he's going to have some problems. The c3 pawn is weak. You know, so I think black already has a more comfortable position here. So that explains why white didn't want to go for the queen trade.
It's a very safe position for black as well when it's not in any danger here whatsoever. So,
and he will remove that knight from e5 quite easily with knight e7 and knight c6 if he wants.
Sure. Yeah, so it looks very comfortable. So that's why white decided to keep the queens on. I expect if you're going to play the Evans gambit, you're kind of a kind of player who likes keeping queens on the board.
Right.
Keep some activity, and also when you're playing someone who's much stronger than you, I think it's a good idea to keep some extra complications.
Although people often don't realize that, and people like to trade queens against stronger players in the hope of making the game simpler and trying to swim towards a draw. And they rarely, can swim all the way to the safety of a draw.
It's a lot of swimming.
Especially a lot of swimming against Mickey.
Right.
Yeah, against Mickey, it's very hard to. If you get some kind of small edge, you're just going to be tortured forever. So it's certainly something you want to kind of avoid. Okay, we actually have Odin from Norway, who's come here every year. Has just entered the room. And Odin, you were playing who were you playing today?
Playing Ganguly.
Ganguly today. So have you already finished?
No.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. Right. Good thing we're not looking at your game then. So okay. Right. We're going with this game. So Queen a4 check. C6 is the only way to keep the piece on a5. And now white grabs the pawn on e5. And knight to f6 is now played. Castles kingside. Queen c7 attacking the knight. Knight retreats. Black castles and bishop to g5. So this seems to be the current position in the board one encounter between Sanchez and Adams. So, I mean, it looks like a very solid setup for
black.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real weaknesses for black, is there? I mean, but on the other hand, I'd say white can try to use this e-pawn maybe to create some kind of attacking possibilities. You know, if white can ever play a move like e5 and maybe put the knight on b1 around to e4 via d2, so knight d2 to e4. Some plan like that could be possible.
Yeah, I don't think white is doing too badly here as long as he gets to play like knight d2 and rook d1.
There's a possible idea if your bishops are on d3, you could go e5 and then queen h4.
Yeah, I mean e5 followed by queen h4 looks like a very standard. It's a good plan. Yeah, in this position because white kind of wants the queen on h4 here. It's not really doing much on a4. On h4, you'll kind of put a bit of pressure on black's kingside, and as Jack Rudd, who's international master from England and very aggressive player, so he spots these attacking ideas very quickly. Then if you combine this with your bishop on d3, you can gain very good attacking chances. So
yeah, I think the question here is what black is going to do with the knight on a5.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
and also what he wants to do with the bishop on c8. Those two minor pieces, he has to solve that problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that easy for white to get a big attack because even if you play like e5 and knight d5 and the queen goes to h4 and black trades on g5 and plays h6, it's not like you're getting a mate there or anything.
So let's just show that line. So I mean, let's say Mickey plays something like
bishop e6, right?
If we try an immediate e5, something like knight to d5, and now have the queen. I don't know if e6 is the best square for the bishop, but queen h4, I mean, you capture.
Well, if you take, then you also give white the possibility of maybe taking on e6.
Yeah, maybe the bishop e6.
Although then, I don't know how much that bothers us.
h6 immediately here then.
Yeah, you play h6 immediately.
h6 immediately makes sense. And now, we can try some rubbish with bishop d3, but it doesn't look like it's going to work with bishop takes bishop and queen takes e5 at some stage. For example, bishop d3, maybe black can just take this bishop off.
Right.
Knight takes, and now
queen e7.
Or queen take. Can you go queen takes e5? Is that possible as well? Maybe queen e7 is safe, good move as well. But there's not really attack here.
Yeah, queen takes e5. It just picks up a pawn.
Yeah, looks and there's no attack. So it's not entirely clear to see how white's going to manage to stir up an attack. And
Yeah, I think white needs to, first of all, develop his pieces before he considers the move e5.
That's something I always tell my pupils. So you can't just get a mating attack with one piece, can you?
Right. So, I mean, we will see the move knight d2, and I think if you think about where the rook on a1 belongs, most likely on d1, maybe the other rook on e1.
Yep. And, well, we have one more move. Rook to e8's been played, which is a nice, solid move. I mean, it's given extra protection to the bishop on e7, and at some point there's an X-ray, a possible attack against white's pawn on e4. So, yeah, I mean, black's setup is very solid. The pawn formation is, there's no weaknesses. Black's pawn formation, white's got the slightly weak pawn on c3. So I think we'll come back to that game at a later point because there's, you know, there's a lot of things that could happen here still.
Yeah, I feel, though, that white has done okay coming out of the opening with a playable position against a top grandmaster.
Yeah.
You know, he's got something to play for here.
When you play the Evans gambits, I guess you've got to be quite happy you're not just a pawn down in this kind of position.
Right.
So yeah, you can be reasonably happy in this position, I think. So what game should we go to now? Irina, would you like to pick a game, or do you want me to pick a game? I would probably...
Why don't we go to Nigel's game?
Okay, so let's see how Mickey's Twitter competition is getting on. So Nigel Shorts. So they both got the same amount of Twitter followers at the moment, Mickey and Nigel.
Adam's in the lead.
So, sorry?
Adams is in the lead now.
Adams is in the lead now. Wow, that's... So we have an update. Mickey Adams has taken the lead in the Twitter battle. Well done, Mickey, proving that you are the best player in England. Or something like that. So, okay, so I wonder if Nigel's supporters are now going to get all their family to follow Nigel's Twitter account. Who knows? Anyway. Okay, so in this game, Nigel is white. So Nigel often has a great tournament here. And seems to be his best tournament, really, best open he plays. And he's had some phenomenal results here over the years. He's won it a number of times when he hasn't been top seed. In his game today, he is playing Zapatar, and this is okay. So
he's playing a woman, isn't he?
Yeah, woman I am. So, and it's quite interesting the way this has sort of developed because Nigel used to be famous for being an E4 player, but he has. I guess now he plays D4 more.
We've seen some of his D4 games last year.
Yeah, and this is what he's decided to play here. And okay, it looks like the opening has gone fairly solidly up to a certain point because knight to f3, e6, c4. Yeah.
So we've got a Queen's Gambit declined, and Nigel chooses this unusual system. I've never seen it before with the move castles long here. We were discussing this before, Simon, and we thought that white is obviously trying this move to combine with some attacking ideas like h4, g4, g5. Or possibly e4. So black counters in the center with c5. Seems very logical. Black has to open up the game for those bishops.
c5 looks like a good move, yeah.
Yeah, especially given that white has castled queenside, you have to make this move.
You can't just sit there, can you, as well? I think and just wait until Nigel gets planned.
dc5 and queen a5, also typical. Here. So, of course, we're not going to see an attack anymore. We're in a pretty typical endgame.
Yeah.
What do you think about this endgame?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say white's very comfortable here. Personally, I mean, he's got this lovely outpost of the knight on d4. Black's got this pawn on d5, which is going to be a weakness at some point. It's on a light square. Black's got a light square bishop, so his light square bishop is a very bad piece, and white can maybe put his bishop on f3, something like this. So.
Knight takes e6 followed by e4.
Well, again, I'd be very. Jack suggested knight takes e6 with an e4 idea. I'd always be very cautious about exchanging my very good knight on d4 for the very bad bishop on. Yeah,
it's
e6,
probably not worth it because after knight e6, fe, e4. Pawn takes e4. Well, black is going to win back the c5 pawn. Let's say white at some point wins the e4 pawn. Black can play against the c3 weakness. White will play against the e6 weakness. But I don't think it's that big of an edge for white.
I mean, can black not just take on c5 with the rook as well? And
yep, could do that.
I mean, the danger from the position we did have when white's minor pieces were clearly better than black's minor pieces Now, I think black's
Oh, you want to play a little tactic.
Yeah.
ED, rook
tactic.
d5.
Oh, how
Yeah.
did I guess there'd be a tactic involved? Jack, tactic, rud. Has spotted a tactic, but I can take on...
But you
I
know, you
just-
take on c3, play your
Rook
rook
c8.
back to c8. I mean, you're a little bit worse,
Yeah,
maybe,
Yeah, I mean, maybe
with
I
the
don't
bishop
need
against
to
knight. But I mean, what if you take on
just
e4?
take on e4 first. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if black can just get this knight into the game to a certain
Rook
square...
c5, knight c6,
Yeah, what, bishop c4? Is
king,
that-
king
Okay.
f7.
Yeah, I suppose then you have to be a bit...
You
right.
have rook d6, yeah?
Well,
It's interesting, isn't it?
possibly, or possibly rook HE1.
It's not such a big deal.
It's what here?
Yeah, let's play king f7,
Actually, it's not so silly, is it? I mean, what, rook d6, then...
rook c5,
Okay. It's an interesting idea.
bishop e6, king e7, rook hd1.
What about also, like, I think Jack mentioned just rook on he1 here? Because it's very hard now to develop the knight
Right,
on b8, because
right.
a rook d7 check is going to be awfully annoying.
Yep,
And I just want to bring my last piece into the game. Rook takes e4.
it does look better
Um,
for white.
Yeah, it does. It actually, so maybe this idea is quite interesting. I mean, if we go back to the game, so black's just played rook to c8, and there's been a suggestion of knight takes e6 followed by e4, and you know, just initially, positionally wise, I'd say this is not what white normally is trying to play, because knight on d4 is very strong. But as Jack's kind of proven, tactically this could be very good. So let's just have a look at that line one more time. Knight takes e6, f takes e6, pawn to e4. And so after this pawn to e4, white's just trying to open up the position very quickly, whilst black's behind in development. And this pawn on e6 is actually a big target. So, and Jack's, I think, tactical point, which maybe we didn't notice before, if rook takes c5, which is very logical, Jack, the hacker Rudd, wants to play pawn takes pawn. And now, well, for example, pawn takes pawn, and I guess rook takes d5 was the Jack Rudd killing blow. Well, not killing blow, because I mean the game goes on here. I mean, even if I go something like rook takes c3, for example.
Yeah, king b2, rook c8.
Have to go rook c8 to stop rook d8. What's this position like? Is this, or like if I can get knight to c6?
Yeah, you're a
then
bit.
I'll be
I mean,
happy.
I think you're a bit worse, because the knight c6, rook d7.
Sure,
The rook is
yeah.
strong on the 7th.
Yeah. And
Maybe bishop d3 here.
bishop d3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's. Okay, I'm going to try to play knight c6.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
d4
Rook
is,
rook d7.
and then if I go
A knight
e5.
e5. You don't have bishop c4. And you want to play knight b4.
Maybe, yeah. The idea here is either if it's black to move to go knight b4, or if rook d7, then black can play knight to
Well, you don't
e5.
put bishop on d3, maybe you put it on e2.
So bishop to
Right.
e2 has been another
Bishop
suggestion,
e2.
and now the point behind this move is there's no knight to e5 move available anymore. I don't know. Maybe white could be slightly better. It doesn't look like a great deal. I'm just a bit worried about that black might actually be able to get very active. I can even sacrifice a pawn somehow. I don't know. Can I do that? So rook d7, let's say, and what is going on in this position?
There's a funny move like bishop c4 here also.
Bishop
Is it-
c4, yeah. okay.
Maybe you just play king. What exactly do you do with your king?
King f8, king h8, sorry, I think.
King h8.
Looks
So
safe.
then it's not clear why we put our bishop there. Okay, forget that idea.
So, and
Rook d7.
rook d7, and now black sort of needs to give a move here. I was thinking if rook,
What about knight b4?
and rook d8 doesn't work because a bishop c4 check, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, knight b4.
Knight b4, you can try.
B1.
Well, knight b4, can I also, no, I can't take the pawn. And now he wants to go bishop to d1 to put the bishop on b3.
Oh, okay.
And that's a very nice square for the light square bishop. Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe white does have some edge here. I mean, it's not, we haven't been able
Yeah,
to
it's a
find
very
way.
interesting idea, trying to
It is,
open up the
yeah.
position like that. I mean, it's paradoxical
Yeah.
to give up that strong knight for the
Yeah.
bishop on e6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming if white doesn't take the bishop, he's still going to have an edge as well. But this is quite a clear-cut plan. And if in chess generally, if you can find a clear-cut, simple way to gain an edge, there's no points. A simplified version to get an advantage. You don't need to overcomplicate things.
Yeah, I mean, you can try to somehow develop your pieces here. Actually, the thing is that maybe black doesn't even want to play rook takes c5. Maybe black wants to play knight d7.
Yeah.
And then knight takes c5. I think in general the knight would be pretty happy on c5,
Yeah.
where you can get counterplay through the e4 and a4 squares. So if white tries to do something slow like bishop e2, then the question is what happens at knight d7?
So bishop e2, knight to e7.
Yeah.
Knight to d7, sorry.
And I wanted to play bishop to e2 because I thought maybe there's some ideas of putting the bishop on f3, attacking that pawn.
Irina, would another idea be,
Yeah.
instead of bishop to e2, I mean, I guess my initial thought would be something like bishop to b5 and possibly even
Right,
try
they
to swap
often
on
do
my
that so that you
bishop for
can't.
the-
But then okay, rook d5.
Rook c5.
Yeah, then your
now,
bishop is maybe not so
it's a bit
amazing.
exposed because you can go maybe b5 at some stage, a6 and b5, you know, idea. I just wanted to, when you move the knight to d7, c6, I just wanted to capture that knight and
right.
just try to claim I've got some kind of small edge there with my knight versus your bishop. But
Well, I think you have a significant edge there.
Quite good.
big edge, yeah.
Knight c6.
Knight
Right.
to c6 now, and yeah, if I take that knight, you can take the pawn, and maybe this has helped black's position. So, yeah, so it's not clear. I mean, the only well,
You can play bishop a4 to b3 maybe.
okay, that's another decent square,
You trap the rook.
and maybe I can't.
You can trap the rook with bishop c6, bc, knight b3, but then the rook goes to c4, so you don't quite get the rook. It's a nice idea.
Yeah, or b5 maybe.
b8.
Yeah.
Or the rook
Yeah.
can go.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's fairly.
No.
I mean, we just got a quick message that we're just going to have a very little break, being round one. Obviously, we're still just setting things up here, so we'll be probably going and commentating with no problems, I'm sure, very shortly. But there's just a couple of things we just need to tweak here. So we'll be back in 10 minutes to continue with the other games that are going on. So please tune in soon. But we're just going to have a very short break now for 10 minutes, and we'll be seeing you again soon. I'd like to welcome everyone back to the 12th Gibraltar Tradewise Congress. Sorry about the slight delay there. I'm sure everything's going to be okay now. Have to bear with us slightly on the first day while we get warmed up and get back into our stride, I guess. But we're going to be in our stride soon.
I thought you'd like to keep this room cool, Simon.
I do, yeah. Well, warm up, cool. It's got to be a bit of both. So yeah, at the right time. But some very interesting positions. So far, we've just had a look at Mickey's game on board one and Nigel's game. So the two top English players here who are having this tweeting battle we talked about earlier, where they're trying to compete for the most tweeters. I've heard that now Mickey has just pipped ahead in the tweeting battle, but we'll keep an eye on that. But also maybe keep an eye on the chess as well. So the game we're going to now move into is last year's winner, and we dubbed him the Iceman, didn't we, Vichigov, because he was so cool. He was like the most relaxed chess player I've ever seen under pressure. He was playing Nigel Short, and he was just in this playoff for a serious amount of money, and he just kept his cool so well.
Yeah, I don't know if you would call him relaxed, Simon. He looked extremely focused and intense.
The Iceman. Yeah.
Yes, the Iceman. That sounds fine, but not because he's so relaxed.
He was in the zone.
Yeah.
He was definitely in the zone, and now he's back again. So 27-37. So a serious contender to take the title again. And we have a very interesting opening here. He's playing, I don't know, I've never heard of his opponent, but his opponent's an IM, International Master, and his opponent's actually playing an opening which I believe the English International Master, Michael Basman, played for a while. And Michael Basman's a bit of a legend, I think it's fair to say, in chess circles because of his strange and wacky ideas. He's very fond of 1G4. He's very fond of 1A6. Anything that looks weird, he's very fond of, I think. So he's, again, this opening, so if we just go through the moves here, Black has played a Sicilian type of structure, but after knight takes d4, and it's a very common position, you'll see the move a6 being played on countless occasions, knight to f6, there's so many moves, d6.
Knight c6.
Knight c6, there's so many popular moves here, but bishop c5 is really a very rare move here, and things actually become quite tactical straight away, don't they, Irina? Here, I mean, it's. I
remember I used to have a little tape cassette on this opening. Yeah, all
oh right, okay. We have Stuart Conquest in the room at the moment, who's the tournament organizer, and Michael Basman did before Ginger Gem was around or any other DVD companies. You used to get audio tapes with openings on, and Michael Basman did a series of openings on these tapes, and Stuart Conquest has just informed me that he had an audio tape on this bishop c5 move. Right. So have you ever played this opening, Stuart?
I played it when I was a kid for a couple of times.
Couple of times, yeah. So is it? I mean, the strange thing here is it's an opening. If I was playing with the white pieces and my opponent played bishop c5, I'd have no idea what to play. I'd probably have to sit down and think for at least 30 minutes to try to work out a plan. But Vichigov just banged out his moves like it was a normal opening he's facing. He just like, I've seen this 100 times before. What are you trying to do to me? So it was just, it's not surprise. It didn't seem to surprise him at all. So he continued with what I believe is the reason people do not play this opening as Black anymore. Knight to b5. So this is trying to take advantage of the d6 square. And now Black's wacky idea is queen to b6. This is I can see you play this opening, Stuart. This is definitely a Stuart opening, a bit wacky and a bit interesting. So queen to b6, and now bishop to e3. So bishop to e3 is a potential. I would say it's not really a pawn sacrifice because Black did.
It's a pretty radical attempt to trade Black's best piece and the only real defender of the dark squares in Black's position. So I don't know if everyone would think of the move bishop e3. If it comes to mind, if you don't know it, would it really come to mind? It looks like it ruins your pawn structure, loses a pawn with check. But at the same time, that bishop on c5 is a great piece, and by trading it off, you get access to the d6 and c7 squares.
Yeah, I mean, after bishop takes bishop, f takes e3. we can see that White's idea was to basically gain control of d6 square. So he's just going to plonk a knight or a queen into d6, and this is a major hole in Black's position.
And the move queen e3 does not really help Black's position, because after bishop e2, well, the only piece Black has developed is the queen, and now there really is no one protecting all of those dark squares. So I think this would just lose immediately.
Yeah, this looks very bad.
Queen takes e4 even lands into a knight fork.
Got a choice of two knight forks, but
I know, let's go for the one on g6.
Yeah,
yes.
the d6 one looks nice. So, yeah, it looks a very dangerous position, this pawn. That's why I say I wouldn't even say this is really a sacrifice from White, because what does Black play here? I mean, Black could just be losing immediately in this position. It looks absolutely disgusting, this position for Black. So, hence why after f takes e3, that Black decided not to catch this pawn, but to try to develop instead. So, knight to c6. But a very unique position we've got here. This is quite interesting. I mean, you won't see many Sicilian opening positions, come to something so strange, such a strange pawn formation. And now, okay, I guess there's a number of moves here. I mean, queen to d6 looks very
right, and that's what I'm wondering about, Simon. What actually was Black planning on the move queen d6?
So some weird perpetual. If queen d6, I know we got c1 check at some point, but I guess the king goes
maybe
for
queen up.
Let's have a look. So yeah, here, well, I guess let's try. Queen takes e3, and now bishop to e2. You could consider king to d1. Yeah, it's not so silly, king to d1.
No, try king d1.
King d1 is not. What about now knight to f6? This is the kind of move I'd be very tempted to play.
Right.
And the point is, well, if White grabs this rook on a8, which I really don't think he should grab.
Black comes in with knight takes e4.
Knight takes e4.
And suddenly Black is probably winning, or at least doing very well.
Yeah, massive attack.
Threatening the queen and threatening mate on f2.
Yeah, so this actually looks very dangerous. So maybe this is one of the ideas.
And what about on queen e3, bishop e2?
Okay, so
queen d6.
Queen d6. So queen to d6. And now queen to e3 check, and now bishop to e2. And again, maybe Black can just consider this knight to f6 move. This is one idea. I mean, I think also...
You can also try taking the rook on h1.
Yeah. So queen to c1 check, and, well, if bishop to d1, then queen to e3 is going to sort of head to a draw, I
Right, so let's try king f2.
King f2, and now just queen takes
Queen
h1.
takes h1.
Very wacky stuff, though. Very wacky opening this one.
Yeah, the funny thing is that, normally when you play knight c7 and the king goes to d8, you'd have queen f8 mate. Here it's not mate because the king could take the knight.
Right, okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, what happens after, let's say, check, king d8, and knight takes a8? Because now,
yeah, I think knight f6 you play queen c7, yeah?
Then probably, okay, so knight f6.
Yeah, we can try it, but...
Queen here now, maybe king e7 even?
Right.
King e7, and I'm ready to launch my knight into the e4 square, take that pawn on e4 with check here. Actually, all these lines look pretty promising for
Black, right.
Yeah, Black's getting a lot of counterplay, and this was actually with queen c1 check, and another possibility, instead of going queen c1
was
check
knight f6.
Here, yeah, so after bishop e2 is just the immediate knight to f6. Maybe Black doesn't even want to take this rook. Instead, Black wants to just try to capture the pawn on e4 and gain some kind of dangerous attack here. So this is, I guess, why Vichikov just decided to develop a piece.
Right, so knight c3 makes a lot of sense.
Yep, so we'll go back to the game now. So, okay, in the game, after knight to c6, the reigning champion just decided to develop. And now Black did take this pawn. Okay, it's interesting. This is a strange move. And now he went, wow, king to f8. That's not the kind of move you want to be playing with Black, is it? Or move 9.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the ways to step out of the fork on c7.
I mean, if I had to play that move on move 9 with Black, I'd never play this opening again. It just looks far too scary. Look at these pieces coming in. Rook b8. And now this White's got this horrible...
Certainly some of Black's pieces look like they're in a cage.
They do, yeah. I mean, White's got this massive clamp on the d6 square and c7 square. And you can see after rook f1, there's also going to be threats against the Black king. I'm predicting a quick loss here, actually, for Black. This is a...
How about trying to explain White's next move, h4? This move was a little bit surprising for me.
Very surprising.
What do you think the idea of that is?
Originally, I thought the idea of playing h4 here
Was to try to take away the g5 square from the queen, so you could try to trap it. But how do you really trap it? Rook d3 maybe? Rook d3, it goes back to b6.
Maybe the idea, Irina, is to force a draw with rook d3, queen c1 check, rook d1, queen e3. Do you think the reigning champion will be trying to force a draw in this position?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. So, okay.
So
well,
this is a kind of a mystery. Why h4?
It was definitely his rook d3 move because this is what he played in a minute. So yeah, if he doesn't play h4, what other options available? So it's really keeping a clamp on the position here that White needs to do. Okay, so I mean.
Oh, can I just point out something kind of nice here? In this position, guys, it looks like rook h6 is a very normal move. Obviously, you know, Black does not have a lot of ways to complete his development here, so he's doing something that you see often beginners do, developing their rooks from the sides of the board. But rook h6 is actually a very important prophylactic move against a pretty tremendous blow that White would have if it was White's move right here, Simon. So I'm setting you up to find a nice tactic.
I've only just seen it, yeah, very kind of you. So, well, I guess the idea, let's say Black plays something like a6 instead of this move, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Then the idea, which you very kindly tipped me off about because I'm not convinced I'd do it, well, hopefully you would have seen it, is knight takes e6 check, which is a very nice tactic because you can't take with the f pawn because it's pinned, and if you take with the d pawn, then queen to d8 is going to lead to checkmate. After knight takes d8, rook takes d8, and checkmate. So that'd be very embarrassing.
So, you know, it looks like White was making just some innocuous developing move, rook f1, bringing the rook to the open file, but it's funny how that's a good move positionally, and it also comes with a very big tactical threat. So rook h6 defends against that idea. I'm just trying to backtrack a few moves in this game just to try to understand what could have led White to play this move h4.
Sure, and as you mentioned, I guess Black's idea here at some points after the black queen is attacked is to play queen to g5. So this is why h4 was played, and we'll see as the game develops, rook to g6 is now played. I mean, the problem that Black has, if you actually count the number of pieces that Black can move, is really only the rook, and that's about it really. You can move the king, you can move the queen, but where do you move
So even a toddler could count it, Simon.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, so I think we're safe enough here. I mean, because, yeah, I mean, you can't be the knight on e7. The knight on e7 is pinned. The rook on b8 has no squares. The bishop on c8 can't move. The knight on c6 really has no squares.
You can't move the knight either because of the threat knight takes e6.
Yeah.
And you can still mate on the d8 square by sacking the queen.
Yeah. That's a nice point. So let's say Black did, I don't know, made some strange move like knight to a5, which doesn't actually have much point to it.
But it would be logical with his flank play.
Yeah. And now there's a very nice tactic here again involving his checkmate on d8. Knight takes e6. And now if d takes e6, queen d8. So if rook takes, well, you have a choice of two rooks to take. But
I know, but it's nicer to take this one, yes.
Yeah, let's go for the pretty one. And also,
actually, maybe we might be missing like queen g3 check. Actually, queen g3, rook f2, and then take the rook.
And we've managed to lose.
We've managed to lose for White.
So, but it's really,
going for our little tactics.
It looked nice though for half a move. So okay, but knight to a5 makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, the idea is there. Yes, it also leaves the rook on b8 unprotected. So
yeah. So Black is really struggling to find any useful moves in this position. So hence why Black plays rook to g6.
Yeah, rook g6 makes sense. It looks like what he's trying to do is to play queen g3.
Yeah, and exchange
and
queens
trade. And trade queens, and at least that his rook will be active.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So now rook to d3.
So White prevents this idea. Queen c1 and knight d1.
And this is the current position. Knight to d1. So
the big question, of course, is what's happening on queen takes c2.
Rook takes g2 as well. It's quite quite a critical idea. So black's two moves are queen takes c2 and rook takes g2. So let's start with queen takes c2, and immediately I'd be thinking, well,
Bishop h5.
bishop
no.
h5, rook to f3 as well. Rook to f3 just looks very simple and difficult move for black to deal with. Do you have to play f6? I think so. Maybe f6 holds it together. And
f6 is not a bad move to have to make.
I want to know what's going on after bishop takes h5, and now rook takes g2. This is a very strange position. And if rook takes f7 check, king to g8. I mean,
What about
this looks a bit scary.
rook takes, because you have rook g1 mate.
Rook G1
There's no
is
rook
this,
e7 because of rook g1 mate.
This is very. All of a sudden, black's two remaining active pieces of.
No, I
That's
think
always chaos.
white must be winning here.
In this position.
Yeah. They still believe white has a preponderance of force. All right. Okay, cannot move rook d to f3 so easily because of lose the e4 pawn.
And queen.
And queen e2 mate, yes.
Not so simple to find a move for white here. Can you go knight to e8 is everything, but then you go rook to g1 check and you exchange off these rooks, which is not so worrying. So you need to do something pretty urgently, I think, here for white.
Okay, what about rook f1? Responding to the urgency of the moment by just retreating and guarding, the g1 square. I mean, my idea is to play queen f4.
Sure. Bear with me 1 second. So that's after knight to d1, queen takes c2, and this is bishop takes h5, rook takes g2, rook takes pawn check, and then we just move the rook back, because actually all the white's pieces at the moment are doing a very good job of covering any possible check that the black queen and black rook on g2 can create. I mean, if I was black here, I'd desperately be trying to find a way to get another piece in the game. So what about, I don't know, some crazy move like knight b4?
Yeah, that seems to, doesn't that lose the knight after queen takes b4?
And queen takes d3.
Queen d3.
There's a possibility. Let's have a look. So knight b4 is an idea to try to just bring another piece into the game. And I mean, black's king looks reasonably safe. I'm not going to say completely safe.
Right.
You have got this funny move, rook to f8 check. Have you seen this one? King takes, knight takes e6 check, but then...
No, I didn't see this one, Simon.
No, probably because it's rubbish, but the king just goes back to g8, I think. Because again, if you take on e6, queen to...
That's a nice idea.
But just king back to g8, and I think, again, there's no check here except for bishop f7, and I can't believe that there's going to be...
Yes, bishop f7 at the very least, you could play like king h8.
King h8, and again, white's going to run out of checks, and he's still got threats to deal with. So queen takes c2. This is an interesting moment. What is white's plan after queen takes c2?
Is white still thinking? White hasn't made a move yet?
White's still thinking. I mean, I really just don't believe black's position here at all.
Right.
Because he's only playing with his queen and rook, and white's pieces are active. The king on f8 is bad. So I'm sure that white's on the verge of winning, but it's really just figuring out what white should be doing here and the best way to play this position.
Well, I like bishop h5.
Okay. So rook takes g2. Well, if you're going to take on f7 with a rook, why don't we take with a bishop?
Oh, what about knight takes e6 here, Simon?
Knight takes e6.
Because now that the rook has moved from the protecting
Much
e6, let's try that.
Also, you do have the very
pretty queen e6.
Pretty move, queen takes e6. Is that legal?
No, but then just pawn takes. Knight is still covering d8.
Okay, yeah, doesn't work.
But knight takes e6 should be pretty effective. Because I've been wondering how to get that knight on c7 into the game.
Sure, looks like you can move. Knight takes e6 check. And now black only has one move, because if d takes e6, queen to d8, again, is this quite a attractive checkmate that we saw earlier. So
I also think an attractive checkmate is king e8, bishop takes f7. That's another nice one.
So here, bishop takes f7 is a very...
You know what I like about this position? Of course, the rules of chess tell you that an advantage in development, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right. So even though white hasn't castled here, and his king seems to be in some danger from two heavy black pieces, of course, any strong chess player will believe that white just has to be winning here based on his, superior development.
If I actually got this position in a game, Irina, I think I'd probably first play queen takes d7 check.
Are you?
I think I'd
really?
I'd just throw it in.
So you realize that reveals a lot about your character.
What does that reveal about my character? Enlighten me, Irina. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so
maybe.
you'd
It looks nice.
want to make a joke, to your opponent,
Yeah, just make it look pretty. It looks prettier. You're a queen down now, so
Yeah, it does.
I've sacrificed my queen to checkmate my opponent. So okay.
So king g8 would have to be played here, and
king to g8, and
then so black still has no threats, and we haven't even been forced to play rook takes f7 here.
no, I mean bishop takes f7, king h8, then
Yeah,
e2.
then there's e2's hanging. Where can that knight go? That would maybe just to g5.
Knight to f4 as well makes a lot
Knight
of sense.
f4.
Cutting some more squares, attack the rook.
Yeah,
This, something simple like knight to f4.
and bishop f7 soon.
Yeah, bishop f7
Yeah.
very soon. Where does this rook go on g2 now?
Right.
Maybe it has to go to
Actually, you
h2.
could play bishop f7 and then knight f4. I think that's very strong.
Yeah, so it looks horrible, doesn't it, really? I mean,
So we've
it's-
refuted this line. Let's
I think so. Well, I think
stop
Fitchcock's-
beating this dead
Fitchcock's
horse.
refuted it, yeah. So,
Rook f6 instead of taking on g2.
so rook, we have a suggestion in the crowd of, whereabouts, instead of taking on g2. So let's go back. So this after knight to d1. I'm just checking to see where we stand. So it's still black is considering his options here. And, I mean, I'd probably be trying to play rook takes g2 first here as well. Did you say rook f6?
He meant after queen c2, bishop h5 to play rook f6.
Okay, rook f6 here as well. Okay, so let's look at this before we move on to another variation. So this does stop f7 from dropping. But there could well be some problems with rook takes rook, pawn takes, then queen f4. I'm thinking now I'm just trying to reroute my queen around to h6. Maybe something like this. It might even be something stronger.
How about
So
queen
this
d3 here? Do you see a forced checkmate?
No. No, close, but not close enough.
Not close
Okay,
enough.
Not close enough. Okay.
Well, we can just look at that for 1 second. Queen f4, queen d3. Yeah, unfortunately, you don't have queen f6 there.
No.
Would for black possibilities be to play e5, releasing the rook which was on h3 onto the queen?
Possibly. So if he has time to play this move, so in
Instead of queen
suggestion
takes c2.
a suggestion of e5 is being made as well, which could well be interesting. So that's after knight to d1 instead of queen takes c2. It's a very complicated position. e5.
Yeah, makes some
And
sense.
Again, do we have? Yeah, that's also interesting. So the rook is now attacking the queen, trying to force this queen away.
I think what we would have to look at here is the move rook takes f7,
Yeah, sure. And
and followed by bishop takes h5 and rook f3.
then, okay, so now rook takes f7, getting very complicated. King takes. So I'm just wondering if we have rook f3 check here and bishop c4 as well. But the king should be safe on h7. So now bishop takes h5, and with the idea of just going rook f3 check and capturing on g6. Looks
I mean, there's knight d4,
knight d4.
maybe even.
Such a complicated position. What's a?
Oh, you were just hoping, black would lose in a couple of
Black was
moves.
going to fall apart here, but we keep finding resources for black. I mean,
Yes, plus, knight c2 is an idea.
white must be winning.
Rook g3, play rook g3.
Rook g3. You're not
Yeah.
afraid.
I'm not afraid of knight c2, I can play
Okay, not afraid. So knight c2. You're going to go king to
king f2.
king f2 looks
Yeah.
safe. And now g6 is about to drop. And I imagine.
So I'm feeling pretty happy here for white.
Mhm.
I think black misses those pieces on b8 and c8,
Sure, yeah. I think this is always a problem with this position. The tactics will work out in white's favour just because black's playing. If we go back to the game position, the current position, after knight to d1, queen takes
c2 was
has
played.
been played.
So I think we're going to get a chance to see some of these lines.
Yeah,
And after bishop h5, let's just look at the move rook f6 because that's actually very likely to be played. I'm pretty sure Vitugov will play bishop h5.
I mean, my first thought here was rook to f3. I'm just wondering,
Yeah, then f6.
f6, and there's no good follow-up in that position. Okay, well, let's
And
go
by
to
the way, on bishop h5, there is an interesting move like knight b4 that you had mentioned earlier.
Knight
Can we
B4
make that
here.
move work?
Okay, so knight to b4 is yet another possibility here. Far too many possibilities in this game. But now can I just take the knight and take on g6? So let's go queen takes knight on b4, and if queen takes d3, bishop takes g6.
Right, now you're feeling happy because you feel like you've won a piece, but then you see
got
queen
check,
g3,
yeah.
and then you realize
You're
like,
still fighting.
you know.
How can you still be fighting in this position? You should have been lost a number of moves ago. Resourceful Irina. Yes, and this is okay. I mean, let's say rook f2, queen takes g6.
Doesn't look too bad for black, actually.
It's certainly playable. I mean, okay, you still have these problems with the queen side pieces.
Right, but now you have some hope of I mean, okay, queen d6 loses the e4 pawn. Maybe knight c3, bring the knight back.
I'd be tempted to sort of put it on e3 for some, I'm not sure, but maybe knight c3, yeah, okay. And again, black does have this problem with this rook, bishop and knight, and black's always going to have this problem with these pieces. But is he a pawn up now? Black's actually a pawn up, so that gives him some hope.
Queen g3 is a good move here for black.
I think I could have played this better actually.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the best line for white. So that's after queen takes c2, and now bishop to h5 is looking like a critical move here. I'm just checking we have no more moves been played. Okay, so let's go with bishop takes h5 again, and now knight to b4. So we haven't refuted knight to b4 yet, so we should. What about can I go rook takes f7 and rook f3 check here? That's interesting. I don't know if it's good because your counterplay comes very quick. I think you're good with knight d3. So the line I was just considering is rook takes f7 check, king takes f7, rook to f3 check, king to g8, and now queen takes e7. But if knight to d3, rook takes d3, and I have probably a mating attack there. I'm not sure if I do, but very close to having a mating attack. There was another option after rook to f3 check. You can play. Oh no, knight to f5 looks suicidal. Knight to f5, rook takes f5. I think could be.
That leads to probably a forced mate.
Yeah. After this move, here, and queen takes. I guess has got to be mates.
King e7.
Oh, don't be resourceful again. please no more resourceful defending.
How about bishop g6? Like, can you really not trap that king? Like, you're not in that big of a hurry, are you?
No, I mean knight to d3 is the only move I'm slightly. I have to stop, but
knight d3 and also queen e4.
Oh, sorry. Maybe actually in this position you can do a move which is prophylactic defending but attacking. Oh no, then queen d3.
There's no mate here.
I don't think there's immediate mate in this position. Should be winning. I mean, okay, but I think queen takes g6 this has to be leading to mate.
King e7?
King e7.
Who's winning here?
Oh, white's still got to be winning.
I don't think
surely.
so. I don't
You
think so. I don't think so.
God, look at this king. Look at my pieces. They've got to be.
But you've only got the knight and the bishop helping the queen.
Maybe it's not winning. I'm a bit amazed.
I mean, queen g5.
Queen g7 as well. I don't know which one's best. I mean, queen g7. You go to d8. Is that the idea?
I could, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Queen g5, king d6.
Down knight check, king c6, and you're certainly running away here.
Yeah, that's the idea, to run.
Yeah, to run. What about if I go here check, then you can't go to c6 anymore. But you maybe
yeah,
run,
king c5.
King c6, knight d4.
King c5?
Yep.
Yeah. Queen.
Such a sensible position.
Queen f5 and d5 and black is, finally on top.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it requires some accurate calculation from white.
Yeah, maybe we should move to an easier game. So this is a bit too hard for the first round. We've got to ease ourselves into the commentary. None of these crazy games where, the king.
You picked this one on purpose, though, Simon. You really wanted to look at this kind of game.
I thought it would just be over in a couple of moves. Black's completely lost, and every line we're finding some resource of black. I still.
But I think let's just I don't know. We could go back to it for.
Well, white's taken on h5.
Oh, he has taken, and black is thinking. So he has a big choice here. There's rook f6 and there's knight b4.
So we haven't found a good reason for black. Well, okay, this knight b4 it does feel extremely suspect, but let's with this rook f7 idea was looked very scary. Certainly looked very scary. Is there knight? No, knight takes e6, then you go rook takes e6 again.
So wait, I mean, knight b4, okay, rook f3. Rook f3, queen e4.
But king to d2.
Oh, it allows a lot of checks. Yeah, there's a 1 h4.
This must be something here, surely. After knight b4, there's so many ideas with some sacrifice on f7. Just can't seem to get them to work. But I'm even thinking about knight takes e6 again. Or
Yeah, knight takes e6. There's rook takes.
then
Rook f7 and king g8.
I was trying to get.
And I don't really see anything.
Yeah, I was trying to get rook takes g7 check to work there. So, okay, I don't think it works, but I was just briefly
Try it. Let's show it.
Knight takes e6 check. King g8 might be a very good move here, but the crazy idea I was just thinking of was rook takes e6, rook takes f7 check, king to g8, rook takes g7 check, but I don't believe this is going to be working, and then I wanted to play rook g3 check.
Right, but king h7, I think,
King
and that's
H7.
it.
Yeah,
You're sort of out of checks here.
out of checks, and it's your
And
turn to have
queen
some fun.
e4, yeah,
Yeah,
queen
it's-
e4 is coming.
It's not working. So knight to b4. What's the refutation of this move? Not clear what the refutation is. Just okay. So bishop takes h5, and black is considering his option. So if we look at
Well, we did think that queen b4, queen takes d3, bishop g6. You know, that position seemed
this,
playable for white.
yeah, this
Right. The
position
question
certainly-
was, if only we could return our queen back to d6.
Sure.
And in fact, maybe that's just what we should do. Let's try queen d6. I think it's very important to get control of that diagonal before black plays queen g3. So let's play queen d6 and just give up that pawn. Because my threat is still knight takes e6. You know, you don't have, well, now it's not.
King to
King to f1. Yep.
f1. And
What are we
yeah,
threatening?
I'm just trying to work that out. If we actually have any threats here, but well, we have.
Of course, the problem for white is that the knight on d1 is not such a stellar piece
No.
either. It was pretty good defensively.
Well, maybe knight to c3 is actually a threat here because you want to try to divert the queen on e4 away from its strong central square, so you can have some ideas with knight takes e6 check.
But maybe
So-
now, well, you can at least consider queen c6. Queen c6.
Okay, because if I
Knight takes e6. Yeah, so you're getting my rook. What can I do about that?
Yeah. No, there's no way you can stop it. So.
Maybe I could have made some other move, like. But I mean, you're also threatening knight e6 if my queen moves away.
Black's position doesn't look so bad here. It doesn't look as bad as it did from the original.
Yeah, if you look at the position, you know, knight
So-
takes e6,
Yeah.
d pawn takes.
Yeah, I think if I have to take on e6, you're kind of. I mean, queen d8 check.
Yeah,
is
queen
quite
e8.
queen
Yes,
e8,
this is
so
the idea.
Queen takes.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so-
mean, this looks like it could be playable for black.
Certainly,
For
yeah.
example, you know, if black plays knight f5,
Yeah.
that seems like a very good square for.
Yeah,
The knight.
There's some maybe attacking chances now as well with knight g3. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
white is better, but it's certainly not terminal for black this position. I'm sure there's
Yeah, it's a question of whether white can win that bishop on c8.
yeah at some point. Yeah, so okay, it's interesting, very interesting position. I mean, maybe we'll move on to another game now because we spent quite a lot of time on this game. So we will now have a look at what game should we
We've been
play?
honing our tactical skills.
We have.
You know,
I
those
think-
checkmates in 3 moves
I think I need
have come up a lot.
I need a lot more honing on my skills at the moment, I think, because that game was certainly not as clear as I thought. So let's have a look at a game we haven't had a look at yet. So, well, there's one player who seems to be in a rush. To do
Richard
something.
Rapport.
Richard Rapport, do you think he's got something planned tonight, maybe? He's
I'm not going to make any guesses, but he is playing very quickly.
So let's have a look at Richard Rapport's game. Now, I mentioned earlier Richard Rapport is extremely exciting player, and he's been playing highest level recently, and he's been playing out some very strange opening ideas, and he's been very imaginative. I mean, he beat Gelfand with a Budapest gambit. I don't know if you saw this game. He played a Budapest against Gelfand with black, and he won, which is very impressive. but also sometimes these ideas.
Oh, that was a very nice game.
It's a very nice
Yeah, I
game,
remember
yeah.
that game. Because when you started talking about the Budapest Gambit, I thought about Jobava's win in the Budapest Gambit
course,
against Wojciech.
Yeah.
Yes, but then I remembered Rapport also had a very nice game against
Yeah.
Gelfand.
Both from Wake and Z, they both use this Budapest Gambit to great use, and this is kind of what Richard's been doing recently. He's been trying out lots of interesting openings, and he certainly hasn't been playing sort of mainline stuff. But then, I don't know if you saw his game against Dominguez, he played free G4. I mean, I'll quickly show you on the board. I mean,
I remember this
completely
game.
bizarre. Yeah, I was commentating for ChessBase on this, and I don't know if we can just move back. So I'm just going to show you the opening very quickly, hopefully. So in Richard Rapport against Dominguez at Wake and Z, played knight to c3, then I think it was like knight to c6, something very similar to this. Maybe g6 was played here. And now all of a sudden, instead of playing the standard g3 move or knight to f3, Richard Rapport played g4. And this just looked like a mouse slip or a hand slip when I was watching this originally. It was just like, what on earth is this, you know? So yeah.
It can't be a good move.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting move, but it's very committal because you're making a lot of weaknesses by pushing it 2 squares. But it's still a fascinating idea. So it's very interesting to watch his games. And his game today, he's playing a 2250 guy, Jan. I don't know where Jan's from, but Rindelsbacher. Let's say Germany. Guess Germany. I don't know. German sounding name, but I don't know. And Richard Rapport, he's played 32 moves, and
I'll say Holland.
He spent 8 seconds.
Does that sound like a Dutch name? Rindelsbacher? No. What kind of a name is that?
German maybe. Austrian. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Austrian.
Austrian, maybe Austrian. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out where Richard Rapport's opponent's from. But yeah, so after 32 moves, Richard has spent 8 seconds.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe he's in a rush to do something. He's got some plans tonight. What do you think? Do you think he's got some plans tonight, Irina? You haven't got any plans with him, have you, tonight?
Definitely not. No,
Okay.
definitely not. I mean, no.
Okay. So I don't know. I mean, he's playing very quickly. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay. So let's see the game. Bishop G7, knight to F3, D6. So King's Indian, and the moves coming out quick and fast. Bishop E2, very standard. Knight to C6 is slightly cuter, isn't it? This move.
Right.
D5.
But it just transposes into a main line.
It does. I mean, I guess White's got the option of playing D5 here. But okay, so castles, E5, D5, knight to E7. And now the bayonet attack with B4. Have you ever had this, Irina?
I wasn't such a big fan of the bayonet for White. I don't know. It just wasn't that tempting to play, 25 moves of theory and then be you'd have a very narrow path to walk to an advantage. Knight H5, right, that's one of the main moves, right? There's also A5 here. Yeah. Knight H5, what do they do here? Is it Rook E1 is one of the main moves, surely. Rook E1 in this position.
E1, yeah, is the main move.
C5.
I think C5 must be a main line as well. So Black's got a very good dark square bishop, but White does have the C file and
Black's position.
So sorry, we keep jumping positions.
Now the final position looks quite acceptable for White, no? We just briefly saw it for just 1 second, but
it doesn't look so bad, does it at all? I mean,
no.
Is White better in the final position? This is one thing I don't know. We'll come to the final position soon, so we won't spend too much time in the middle game here because we've got too many games to get through. So we'll just click through the moves very quickly, and I mean it looks like standard enough affair. Bishop takes C3 is peculiar.
Well, he's trying to win a pawn right on E4.
Greedy. I mean, you're giving up your very strong dark square bishop. You do maybe win
Queen
a pawn.
D4.
F3. Okay, so this is very aggressive play from Black, and it does make a lot of sense. And I think he played nearly all these moves automatically. Didn't he? Richard just seems to be playing without any deep thinking. So okay, it's bishop D7, and we get to the final position. Lots of exchanges come, and obviously Black has some kind of initiative here. But after some tactics, we are going to get to a position, which is the current position, where Richard, like I said, has only spent a matter of seconds on his move. So he's averaging something like 30 seconds a move, which is extremely quick. I mean, he might be a quick player, but it's kind of strange that he's rushing so much. I mean, I don't really see the point to that when you've got, well, now he's got more time than he started with. He's got an hour, 40 minutes and 38 seconds, and his opponent's got 1 minute left, so that's not a good sign for his opponent. But what is his position like? I mean, if you just look at it materialistically, White is doing absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think White is doing okay in this position. Now, let's say the rook can go to c6. If that bishop on b1 is ever attacked, and go to c2. Look, White has decent coordination between his minor pieces, right?
Yeah,
I mean, between his rook and his minor pieces. It's not like fantastic,
Sure.
but somehow things are holding together enough, and it's not that easy
Yep.
for Black to advance his queenside pawn majority. So, for example, rook c6 here.
Rook c6, so
We got to go to that receiving moves.
So White is actually from...
Oh,
sorry. do I do
receiving
that?
moves?
Yeah,
or-
okay.
yeah.
So White is actually from Switzerland, we just found out. A Swiss player.
Okay.
So, okay, so we kind of had the area nearly right.
Yeah,
It was close.
but kind of wrong.
Kind of wrong, yeah. It was in Europe. So, quite a big place, Europe. So, and, okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a very strange position. I mean, this is actually what we have. in
Yeah,
the
of
game.
course, maybe the question here is, can you just play a4 as Black?
Mhm. I mean,
Can
in
you
the
play
end,
a4?
in the end game, the sort of rook versus the two minor pieces
Yes.
is quite useful to have, but you know, generally in a middle game, it's very good to have two minor pieces. You'll have a massive advantage if you have the two minor pieces versus rook here. Bishop on b1 bad, knight on b3.
Yeah, first of all, the problem is on knight b4, there's rook b2.
hmm
Does that just seem to pick up a piece?
Yeah, I mean, even then, if I go rook takes d6, I get quite a lot of pawns for the
You get a
piece,
lot of
but
pawns, you get some play, but the rooks are very active, and the a pawn is going to get pushed to a3, I think.
Let's just take on d6. I'm just going to take on d6 here, and with the plan of, you know, at some point I might have to give up one of my minor pieces for the a or b
How about you
pawn.
give me both of your minor pieces after rook d1, bishop c2, b3, pawn takes pawn, bishop b3, rook d3, rook b3.
That's very greedy.
I mean, one minor piece is really not enough,
Very
you know, for me
greedy.
to be comfortable here, but I'd be happy with two.
So Irina wants everything in the position, all my pieces. So the point being, if bishop c2,
Oh, there was a
There's
little
a-
tempo.
yes, yeah,
But I can still go b3. But no, you take and then...
I take on d1,
Yes.
you take on a2.
No, this one I would win, but first you take on b3 and then you take on d1.
Okay, so
I forgot about that idea,
crafty
yes.
tactic. So yeah, so instead of going bishop takes d1, this very strange a pawn, all of a sudden,
Wins the game.
yeah,
black.
unless there's some weird perpetual with a knight, so I don't think there is. But as Irene has pointed out,
Yeah, first you
Yeah.
trade on
it's
b3.
trade on b3,
Yeah, fortunately.
and then White's going to be winning.
Yes, White's winning. Okay, that didn't work.
I think White can be very happy with the position. In the game, we do have another move. So after rook to c6,
That's what happened?
rook to c6 has happened, and we got rook to d1 now. And Black is very short of time. So, sorry, White is very short of time.
Yes, obviously there's maybe some danger coming to the king from g1. That's the only reason I think he could be going rook d1. He wants to try to get the king cut off and to, mate the king with the two rooks. So maybe, rook g1, king h3, rook f5.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I could consider playing rook c1 here. I really don't like my remaining minor pieces if I play this. So
Yeah, I don't think you should be trading rooks. In
No.
general, yeah, this is a pretty useful rule to know about, that a rook and two minor pieces are usually a much better combination than just the minor pieces versus a rook.
certainly. I mean, it's
Because you
still-
have more attacking possibilities.
Yeah, and but like you said, with this queenside pawn mass,
Yeah.
they're looking very dangerous on a5 and b4. So
I mean, it's not necessarily awful. If you would have had time after the trade of rooks to get your bishop to at least b3 or c6. But yeah, I just feel like that the queenside pawn majority is going to be too dangerous.
yeah, I mean, it's still a very hard position to assess because just materially speaking, White should be okay, and if White
Yeah.
can get coordinated, then White is going to be better. So it's
I just don't think it's happening after rook c1.
Yeah, rook c1 is a good move because you want to stop.
Also rook c8,
yeah.
yes. Hmm.
Rook c8, and now it's very hard for me now to get my bishop to the b3 square. I could try something
Maybe
like
e2, knight e2, control all of the squares.
And again, all I'm thinking, there might be okay. Probably I'm going to have to give up
A4,
this, just
sure.
A4, yeah. Okay, black should be doing well here. Oh well, this has actually happened. Did white really need to play this? Because rook c1, rook takes rook, knight takes rook has happened in the game. So this is the current position, and Richard has not messing about. He's played immediately a4. So
yeah, he wants to get a past a pawn probably after bishop c2, maybe.
Can you get
bishop c2, there's rook c8. Yeah.
So this pawn is very dangerous. I'd be interested to see what the computer says about this afterwards, because I'm not totally convinced by Richard's play. I mean, he's played very quickly, but it just seemed that maybe at some moment during this game, white was probably doing absolutely fine. I mean, you know, you've got to be careful when you play lower-rated players.
What do you think about the move f4 here? I mean, the reason I want to make it, it's not because I'm actually hoping to queen the pawn, but because I'd like to be able to play king f3 and bring my my king closer to my minor pieces.
I guess now it's time for me to play rook c8.
Right, and knight e2.
Knight e2, kind of covering all the squares, but does b3 get me anywhere? I don't know if I do b3 immediately or if I just play rook c5. I mean, rook c5, I'm going to win a pawn probably at some points, and maybe there's something better than rook c5 even. Rook c5 is very tempting, but I don't know, maybe there's better movement. And there's actually b3.
You want to play b3, pawn takes,
yeah, and
a3, right? I thought this was your idea, no?
a3 is interesting. I was thinking maybe I could take the idea of going b2, rook c1, and can you stop this idea? I've literally just trying to put my rook at c1. Are you cool?
Yeah, no, I'm not there in time with my king, yeah.
Okay, so very interesting. And we'll just get to the current position of that game, and then I'm going to just have a very short break, but Irene is going to remain with you, and we're going to be joined by the tournament's organiser and Stuart Conquest, who I believe is over here. Hi Stuart, who's been working extremely hard to get this tournament and make this tournament a success it is. He used to do the commentary all these years ago now, Stuart, wasn't it? So he was, and now I believe you live in Gibraltar, is that true? So you're a Gibraltarian, tongue-tied. So yeah, anyway, I'm sure Stuart will join us and explain a number of things and have a chat with you now. So I'm going to have a short break. This is the current position in Rapport's games, so a4, knight d3, and we think that black's doing well, but you know, it's still a very interesting position. We do have a couple of results, so we'll come to them when I come back to the game, but I'm going to leave you now with Irina and Stuart, so thank you for now.
It's enough.
Hi guys, we're back with tournament organizer Grandmaster Stuart Conquest. Every time I've seen Stuart over the last couple of days, he's looked very busy on the phone and slightly stressed out.
Slightly?
I mean, I was trying to, So what can you tell us, Stuart, about what goes into the job of being a tournament organizer of such a big tournament?
I'm the director.
The director,
yeah,
right.
Brian Callahan is the organizer.
Right.
Yeah, Brian.
Yes, of course I know Brian.
So we kind of, we sort of work together, you know? Well, we do work together. So what was the question?
What's part of your job? What's keeping you busy on the phone all day?
All kind of stuff. Often it's minor, well, not minor to the people concerned, but for example, I had to go down to collect 3 bags that didn't arrive with the same plane or weren't put on the plane to, so I had to go and pick down 3 suitcases from the border this afternoon at some point. The water started dripping from a little corner of the playing hall upstairs. Somebody tripped over something downstairs and I had to call maintenance from the hotel to kind of nail something back in there. Little things like that,
right,
which you wouldn't even hear about normally.
Right.
But someone has to do those jobs, and they all seem to come to me. So little repair jobs and little things, just trying to improve the experience all around. You saw the first move with James Humphreys, but we kind of discussed that beforehand. What was the best way for the cameras to come, the press. So little details.
But so far everything is running smoothly.
I think everyone's here that we thought was going to be here. We've got everyone through the front door. That's always a relief. We've had great weather this year. Well, we've got fantastic weather here. So last year, I think, do you remember we had that bad weather this time last year?
I do remember, yes.
Lots of flights were diverted or sent off to Malaga and people coming late.
Right. So you haven't had any of that? People have been able to arrive here?
Everyone's got here on time. More or less,
Are you planning any excursions to the monkeys, Stuart?
I guess, yeah, we do it every year, right? We do it every year, sure. We've got a lovely dinner tonight. We can talk about that. We've got a very special dinner tonight in St. Michael's Cave. You're coming to that, Irina?
Yes.
Brilliant. And I probably should just let you come to that without saying too much about it. It's going to be a lovely dinner.
Yes, for a lot of the top players.
Yeah, we can invite, because of space limitations, about 100 people going to that.
Wow, that's a lot.
Chess players, So
it's not as exclusive as I thought it was, Stuart.
Yeah, hey, but there's a lot of people not going who'd like to go. Do you want to go?
No.
Just give me my, do you want to go?
Of course.
Great, okay. So, and that's taken a lot of planning as well, I can tell you,
So who are you particularly happy to see here in Gibraltar from the players? Was there anyone that you were trying to get that you were finally able to get this year?
Well, I mean, everyone is really equally welcome. I think that's a big part of the ethos here, is the fact that the first-time visitor to Gibraltar, who's maybe 2,000 rated or 1,800, is equally welcome, or we hope that he or she is made to feel equally welcome as the Nigel Shorts and Michael Adams, and who more or less come most years, and
right.
So we really try to, and I think that's nice, yeah. So some of those people, for example, we invited to the dinner tonight. It's not just the more famous players, and little, we do quite personal touches, little details with people that I don't even need to talk about, but little things just here and there, just to make people feel welcome, little airport, picking people up at the airports and helping out with paperwork and.
So tell us a little bit about the side events here, Stuart, because the Masters tournament is not the only thing going on.
We have 5 events. We have 4 morning events, first week and second week. So we have the Challengers and Amateurs, which kicked off on Monday.
And what rating level do you have to be to play in those?
Yeah, well, the Challengers is under 2,250, and the Amateurs is under 1,900.
And what are the prizes in those events?
Ooh, I think it's like £2,000. I'd have to check the program. I think it's £2,000 first prize.
So there's a significant prize for amateur players.
Ever entrance, numbers of entrants have higher than ever this year for that, for both of those events, which is great. And we've got I think I read one of the press releases, we've got like 30 different nations, federations represented in the Challengers tournament or something like that, which is great,
How many rounds are in it?
There are 5 rounds, so it's 5 round first week, 5 round second week, Challengers and Amateurs. And of course, one can also play in the, many people play in the afternoons as well in the Masters, so they actually get 20 games of chess.
Wow.
All FIDE rated and good prizes and everything else, so it's competitive, serious chess. In 10 or 11 days, Plus all the side events like the master classes.
Right. Who are some of the people teaching the master classes this year?
We have, basically, that's normally in other years we've just sort of put up master classes on the social board on the internet, and we haven't really asked people until they've arrived, and I've sort of gone and said, hey Nigel, would you fancy doing one, or whoever it is. This year I went out to some grandmasters by email before they came here, and I said, look, would you be happy to give a master class? And they all said, yeah, great. So for example, Vasil.
Yes, he's
Ivan
back.
Chuk.
He's back doing a master
Now,
class.
did you remember his master class last year?
I did.
Great.
I mean, I did remember seeing it, yes.
Yeah, it was great. So he's agreed to give a master class this year. Fantastic.
And you have one by the Chinese player Li Chao.
Yeah,
you have
Li
some by
Chao
some of the
was
top
happy,
women.
Natalia Porvenino said she'd, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave also. So Hari Krishna from India, so a lot of people. In fact, more people than we probably have slots for,
So there's also a blitz tournament for 4 people with no rating limit, right?
You going to play?
Yes, I played in both of those events last year, and there's also a pairs blitz with an average rating of 2,200 between 2 people,
Hey,
right?
you know more than I do about
Yeah,
that. You've
well,
been studying the brochure, right?
yes. Well, I want to be able to play some chess here too.
Right.
Last year I actually won the pairs blitz with my Norwegian partner, so I was extremely excited. I found a very good partner, and somehow we just our styles meshed well.
Is he here this year?
I haven't seen him yet. He's not here. Simon. Oh no,
not here?
I'm distraught now.
He's not here this year.
But
Dream team.
I was thinking that maybe you should lift the rating limit on that too. Maybe.
So, why?
Well, because I think actually it'd be really interesting to have 2, strong players with no rating limit, alternate moves. Like, if you don't have a rating limit for a blitz of 4 people, why have one for that one? I mean, maybe have a different tournament,
actually, I'm not sure of the answer to that, but it's something that's been in the kind of the schedule or the program for a long time.
No, it's nice to give something for the amateurs to do and the stronger players, but maybe it could just be a separate event.
It's almost like a pro-am thing. So you got the professional, or the sort of grandmaster, or master player, and the club player, or the sort of part-time hobby player, joining forces, and that's I think the hilarity of it is often.
It's quite hilarious. I remember watching Hikaru Nakamura play this event one time, and how he looked like he was in pain every time his partner moved.
There you are, that's it.
How he would roll his eyes and look up at the sky. No, it's a really fun event. So I am going to play in that, and also.
And we've got the Battle of the Sexes. Do you want to talk about that? You remember that from last year?
I do remember that. This is going to be the same as last year.
Well, the same. It's the same sort of profile event, So it's 5 or 6. I think it's actually 6 women against 6 guys. And
playing on a giant chessboard.
Giant chessboard. We have to decide the time control and everything. But so basically, according to last year's format, but we're really trying to raise the
bar,
entertainment. If you like, professionalize it a little bit, so we've got some nice lighting there. We've got a specially commissioned chessboard. This looks great. In-house, that was made in-house here at the Calessa. And we're just going to give a bit more razzmatazz. We're going to dress up like a boxing ring. You heard of chess boxing, right? This is going to be like a battle of the sexes. Just come along. It'll be great. I mean, you'll be there.
Yeah.
We could do a bit of commentary work on that, like we did last year.
Right.
So that's on Saturday night. Yeah.
Today is what? Tuesday.
Tuesday, we just started, right? Tuesday. What's it like coming back here as a commentator for the second year running?
I'm very happy to be back. And
you must have thought about playing as well. We gave you that option. I was saying, Irina, we'd love to have you back as a commentator, but if you want to play, of course, also love to have you play.
Right. Well, I guess maybe the main thing is that this is the only tournament during the year where I've actually been invited to work as a commentator.
Really?
Yes. Hello, tournament organizers. I'm available.
Such a great job you did here this time last year.
Right.
I thought your phone wouldn't stop ringing.
Right. Unfortunately, my phone has not started ringing yet. But I have been doing some stuff online. Some online commentary I've done for chess.com. I might start doing some things for Play Chess soon. Maybe I'll get to work with Simon again on that website, Play Chess. Simon, I know you work there, and they've recently sent me some information how to download things so I can start doing things on there too. But yeah, as for live tournaments, those opportunities haven't really come my way. So this is my one unique opportunity per year, and it's just a beautiful event. So it's a pity to pass on that. While from the playing point of view, it is the strongest open tournament in the world. With of course, and the best monkeys. But I'll have a chance to play some strong players during the year as well.
And now you're Grandmaster. This time last year you weren't a Grandmaster.
Right.
Now you are. How does that feel? Tell us about that.
Well, I made my last norm in Baku, which was actually also a very strong open tournament. I've got to play like 8 GMs in a row.
Wow.
For rounds 2 to 9 there, and I was really intending to go there for a number of years just because I knew how strong it was, and it was pretty small open with a lot of professional players. So how does it feel? It feels good. Yes.
Did you have a big party? Did you make some special celebration? Like, were you really nervous going into the last day or the last couple of days? That close to it?
Well, yes. The last 2 days, I would say, were the most difficult because that's when you're getting close to the finish line. And actually, I could have clinched my norm in the penultimate round, in round 8, if I would have won. And I played like the longest round of the day, you know, for 6 hours, and I got my winning position, and then I blew it in the last like minute, you know, and I drew. So, you know, and that was obviously not a good feeling, you know, because I knew I was going to get another GM the next day, and I thought I would even get black. It turned out that I got a second white in a row, and a draw was good enough. But my opponent, you know, he didn't want to draw, so I won that game.
So you won your last round?
Yeah, I won my last round.
Really?
And I have this very happy picture where I'm just like so happy, you know, after that game. Definitely I felt euphoric, you know, after it was over because you're not just like, because it was done, it was difficult, you know, it wasn't like my opponent didn't just agree to a draw in the last round. In fact, he turned down a draw for early, so I knew he wanted to beat me. So, you know, I had to, you have to go through the whole game, you don't have anything in your pocket.
That's the best way to achieve something.
That's true, because that is the best, the best feeling, because when I knew that throughout 9 rounds I fought for it, even though in the 8th round, you know, I didn't succeed in clinching my norm. I did everything I could in that game, you know. Well, I'm not a computer, you know. My technique is not the best. I didn't win, but I definitely tried. So yeah, I felt exhausted afterwards.
Sure.
You know, I felt like I'd given this tournament everything I had, and it was actually, you know, it's a very memorable tournament for me.
Did you ever come close to making a GM norm here in Gibraltar?
You know, that's a good question, Stuart, and what do you think the answer is? In such a strong tournament.
I would say yes. Normally you must have had a chance, right? I mean,
yes, I definitely, one time I was half a point short. I needed to draw my last round against Sanzipan Chanda.
Wow, he's here this year?
Yes, and I lost with black. I didn't, you know, just didn't get into that game really, and yeah, that was the year that I beat Akopian and Korchnoi here, and so I just needed a draw in the last round, but I didn't get it. So that was one of my most successful Gibraltar outings.
Akopian went on to tie for first, didn't he?
He did, yeah. After losing in round 1 to me, he actually won like all the rest of his games and tied for first. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed playing here, but somehow I never, I never played well enough to actually win the ladies' prize.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. It's 15,000
I
pounds.
know, you keep raising it. Then one day, you know, I might just have to like, you know, I might have to let Simon do this job without me. No, but yes, I definitely would be happy to do more work as a commentator.
Yeah. Or maybe we could have more chess events in Gibraltar. We just keep bringing you back here, you know? I mean.
Yeah, I'm very happy to come here. You know, it feels, you know, like it's great to come back to such a familiar place. I have that feeling also about St. Louis.
Yes.
You know, where we've had the U.S. championships for the last like 5 years, and you go back there often enough that it's like home to you.
Hey, I saw you were flying via Dublin. Is that right? Were you doing something in Ireland on the way here?
I was not doing anything in Ireland. It was just the cheapest way to get here.
All right. I thought, gee, that's interesting. She's going to Dublin. There must be some chess going on there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's see. I do have some interesting trips coming up ahead.
Are you going straight back to the States after this event?
am going.
Or are you staying in Europe?
I'm going back to the States, but I'm going to be playing in Reykjavik.
Hey, yeah, in March.
As I've often played, right? It's actually another tournament. Well, more so than any other tournament. I think I've never managed to have a good performance there, so I'm hoping to turn it around, you know. And I might be going to the Women's Rapid and Blitz World Championship in Hanse-Mansisk at the end of April. So it's a long trip.
I'm one of the few chess players who hasn't been to that town.
Yes, I actually like it.
Yeah?
I actually like it, yeah. I've been there a couple of times for the Olympiad and the Women's World Championship. It's just very far. It's not such a pleasure to get to, and then try to get adjusted to the 12-hour time difference. You know what's funny, Stuart? It's like I thought I was interviewing you, but actually you're interviewing me.
I didn't see you for a year, right? Have I seen you since last year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So Stuart, you are living in Gibraltar now.
I'm living in Gibraltar, that's right.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Hey, well, I've been here for a year. I am basically, it's like the title of my job is Community Chess Professional. I think it's unique in the world, by the way. I How about that? Huh?
Yeah.
So I'm being looked after by Jib Telecom, who are obviously one of the prime sponsors of this event and have been since the first year. And all this that we're doing now, all this live broadcast and everything is really thanks to them powering it. You know? So they're great supporters of chess, and so they're sort of looking after me here as well on the Rock. And it's teaching in schools. It's basically promoting chess, you know, locally in Gibraltar.
So are you able
Not
to
just
make
for kids, but
much
also
of
for
an
adults,
impact here,
you know?
because it's a pretty small community? So, you know, your work should actually be able to affect a lot of people and reach a lot of people, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's the thing in Gibraltar, is that if something works or if something catches fire, you know, then it can spread very fast, you know. So I like to think I've done a reasonable job the first 12 months. I have to say, organising, directing this event, a lot of time is also, especially the back part of the year, is spent on making sure this tournament comes together. Also, really, it's not really my job per se as a community chess professional, but obviously it's part and parcel of everything here in Gibraltar with chess. We've got some local people playing in the tournament as well, which is nice. And
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about that.
know, anything that's good for this tournament is good for Gibraltar, obviously. You know, so
Right.
as good as we can make this event, you know, it must be great for Gibraltar, and you know, the number of people coming. We got if you factor in all the people's, you know, husbands and wives and kids and friends who are also coming to Gibraltar, all the people working here for us. That's 400 plus people easily, I think, and it's like 10, 12 nights.
Right.
So the number of bed nights and also the reach. I mean, this show is going out around the world, right?
Right.
You know, we hope. I don't know. So the reach that we have from this little room here in La Caleta is global.
Right.
You know, and it's for 10 days. You know, and we know that the volume of traffic is very high. We hope and we believe it's going to be even higher this year than any
So
other year.
you've reached such a
So
level
it's a big
that you
responsibility.
basically.
That's what I want to say. You know, for Gibraltar as well. So I
Right.
really feel part and parcel of that. It's almost like being an ambassador or diplomat or something, that really punching for Gibraltar in as big a way through chess as I personally can, and also.
Is this
helping
one of
other
the
people.
biggest sporting events that Gibraltar organizes?
It's the biggest. I think I
Right.
can say that it's the biggest
Wow.
cultural or sporting event, I think, in the calendar year.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, Minister Stephen Linares said as much yesterday, I believe, at the opening ceremony. Did not? Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed so supportive and enthusiastic
He's-
about this event.
He personally is a big fan of chess, as many the local people here are, you know. So he sees the advantages also for kids, for the schools and education, and also tourism. And he's Minister for Tourism as well, so
Right.
definitely for tourism, no question,
Right.
no question. Event tourism, you know, people coming here and we've got people coming from Mongolia.
Wow, that's right.
You know,
You have one of the top women players here is from Mongolia.
Yeah, she's here, that's right. And two of the guys who are not so highly rated, I actually picked them up at the Malaga airport a couple of days ago with Chucky, with Vasily, at the same time, different flight. But so I brought the three of them back, and at the border we had a little bit of paperwork with the two Mongolians. Because now, thanks to a change in the sort of rules by government, only in the last 3 months or so, with a Schengen visa, a bit technical, with a Schengen visa as a Mongolian passport holder, you can just cross into Gibraltar for 21 days. So there's a few countries that they've relaxed the rules
So
on,
that's very nice
including
for
Mongolia.
visitors
So they
here.
didn't actually have Gibraltar visas.
Right.
So I said to the woman at the frontier who asked me to fill out the paperwork, I said to her, how many Mongolians have actually come into Gibraltar since this rule was changed? She said, these are the first ones.
First ones. I have a trivia question for you, Stuart.
Go.
Who were the 4 winners of the Gibraltar Chess Festival last year? The first 4.
The first 4, well, Nikita.
Right,
Did you
we
know?
know the winner. Yes,
Yeah,
I was
big
confident you'd know that.
Nigel Shaw.
Nigel.
And the other 2 semi-finalists.
Yes.
You expect me to know this, don't you?
Maxime?
I'll help you. We know
Go on.
Maxime
Was it
Vacher
MVL?
Legrave.
Maxime Vacher, yeah?
Right. Now,
And we're grasping for the last person, are we? Didn't you guys
it's a
do your,
good, it's a good
didn't you
trivia
guys do your
question.
research before you came on the show? We should know that.
You know, I think Simon and I are not that strong on that kind of statistical research. You know, it was an effort for us to just know that this is the 12th annual, you know, Gibraltar Chess Festival.
Tradewise.
Tradewise, I did say that. He beat somebody. Who was it that he beat? He beat. You know what? He beat Sandipan.
Was it
He
Sandipan
beat
again? I was going to
Sandipan.
say Sandipan, I thought it can't be him, but yeah, I think it was.
Right, it was Sandipan.
Sandipan, yeah.
Like I remember, the reason we can't remember is 'cause it's not a 2700 player.
Sandipan.
You
I got
know.
the thumbs up from Lennart over there.
Yeah.
So Sandipan, yeah.
Okay, so
He's
we're
here
not.
again this year. He's back again this year.
Yeah.
He's also coming to the dinner tonight.
There's a nice Indian contingent here.
We got a lot. We didn't have so many last year, but we have a lot this year. Also, Hari Krishna, we could also say that because we haven't clashed this year with Tata Steel,
Right.
the way the dates have fallen this year has allowed some people from Tata and Vakanze to come and play
Right.
in Gibraltar, which is nice. So we've got Hari Krishna, Richard Rapport, who was in the A group,
And the two ladies.
and the two girls, yeah.
Zhao Shui and
Shui
Anna
and
Muzichuk.
Anna Muzichuk. So we got, and possibly some sort of amateur or low-rated players took part in Vike and then came.
And
back to
actually,
Gibraltar.
for example, our technical producers,
Hey.
Peter and Leonard,
That's right. You know?
are also coming straight from
So,
Vakanze.
Yeah.
All right, Stuart. Well,
Anyway,
it
there we
was
are.
great talking to
Yeah,
you,
so-
and I'll throw some more trivia questions at you sometime later.
Okay. What about the chess? How's the chess game?
How's the chess? Well, you know, in the first day, obviously you sort of have some expectations about how it's going to go.
Remember last time there were a couple of draws on the top two boards?
Yes, and I was going to make a bet with Simon earlier on today about whether he thinks there are going to be any upsets. Like I thought there would be upsets in the top 30 boards.
Well, you mean,
top even
You
25.
mean someone going down and losing a
Yeah,
1-0?
draw.
Okay, draw.
Most likely draws. I don't think someone is going to lose, but I thought we could see a couple of draws.
Well, last year Ivanchuk drew on board 1, didn't he? And I think board 2.
Kamsky as well.
Was it Gatta? Hey, what about Gatta? We haven't got many American
Right.
players with this year, but obviously Gatta's the big one to watch.
Yes.
How do you fancy his chance? Has he been in form recently, Gatta? Has he been doing well? Or
I think his rating has kind of dropped. I mean, right now he's like 27-17, so that's a little
His
bit low
rating
for him.
dropped.
Wow.
27-17
17, yeah, it's a little bit
Okay.
low for him.
for Gatta.
Yeah, you know, because he's been like 27-50, 27-60, I think. So,
He played that 4-player round
but he
with
seems
Ricardo,
to be-
didn't he? And,
yeah, in
Magnus
St. Louis.
And Aronian.
but he seems happy. I think he's happy to be here. So I think he'll actually play pretty well. That's my feeling. And this game, where we're looking at Rindelsbacher versus Rapport, it's looking not that bad for white. We've been looking at ways for white to get his king to the queen side, and it looks like it's happening. What
Right.
do you think, Stuart?
Black to play, right?
It's black to play, but it seems like white can win the b2 pawn if he,
Sure.
not even if he doesn't even have to try that hard.
Okay, well, already, so potential upsets. Let's say if white could get a draw from this game.
Right.
Don't think he's going to get more than that, is he? Any results already? Any sort of...
Well, the game that one of the games we started looking at, Nigel's game, he won very quickly.
Right. Oh, yeah, I met his opponent outside and lovely.
Yeah, she seems like a nice girl.
She's a lovely guy. She
Yeah.
just kind of shook her head a little bit, so, you know.
Yeah, you know, he had a
Yeah.
very pleasant end game against her, and it seems like he had like no problem converting it.
You know, she won silver medal in the recent World Girls Under-16 Championship.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she won
I've
silver.
never
Really great,
heard of her
really great.
before. Where's she
Spanish girl.
from?
From Spain.
From
Spanish.
Spain. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're really pleased. She's here with her brother, and they're also both playing. Well, her brother's only playing in the mornings, but they're both playing in the Challengers tournaments in the mornings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's nice.
So they're doing the 2 game a day, like American style.
Yeah, well, he's not
version.
playing in the Masters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've got quite a few siblings and you know, couples and that playing here. It's
Right,
nice, you know,
right.
it's good.
Yes. I have my friend Alex Lenderman is also playing in the Masters section. So I have a lot of friends actually who are playing in this tournament. For me, it's kind of like a reunion actually. You've managed to invite like all my friends here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart.
That's right, you know.
Yeah.
There's quite a few Canadians here this year. That was a nice surprise for us. We got 5 or 6 Canadians.
Eric Hansen, Amon
Eric's
Hambleton,
here,
his
correct.
friend.
Yeah,
Right.
and some others. Yeah, so that was good. More women than before, Irina. What about the women? Let's talk about the women in Gibraltar,
Let's talk about
Yeah.
it, Stuart.
because that's a big part of
Yes.
what we believe in and what we try to push every
So
year.
this year, How Yufan and Kaneru are not playing here. What happened with that? I'm sure you guys tried to
We're
get them
in
to
touch
come.
with all the, you know...
Right,
all
I'm
these
sure,
people,
yeah, they'd
And
be
to
on
honest,
top of your list.
Yufan, she was very close to coming here, and the only reason she's not here is because of the Zurich event. She's not playing in Zurich.
Oh, but she has to be there for
Well, she has to be
something.
there. She was invited there
To do a
kind of
simul,
VIP,
right.
to do a simul and one or two other things probably. And it wasn't, I think she obviously thought about coming here. And otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she said to me, Stuart, I would love to have been in Gibraltar, and she would have come, I believe.
Right.
Except for that conflict of dates,
Mm-hmm.
which was unfortunate for us, but hey. You know, we have a lot of other star players.
What about Humpy Kaneru from India?
Yeah, I do know. She hasn't played in a couple of years now. She has been to Gibraltar a couple of times.
Right. I even played her here some years ago.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about Judith? Haven't been able
Hey,
to get her.
stop picking the girls that aren't here. You know, you just.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I'm sure you know because the reason I'm
negative.
asking. No. It's because you know this tournament is such an amazing tournament for women players, and you do actually tend to get all the top women in the world. That it's kind of interesting to know what keeps them away this year. Is it some other tournament obligation? Are they getting married or or something else? I mean,
why wouldn't they be here?
Exactly.
Right?
Why would they
wouldn't
not be here?
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting. But yeah. So
we have some new faces as well. We have
Hotanashvili, isn't this her first
Bella
time playing here?
Her first time, which is fantastic. I mean, she's a really strong player.
Right.
I don't know why, but anyway, for some reason we didn't somehow get her here before. But anyway,
right.
it's great that
She's representing the Georgian contingent
In
this
fact,
year.
Nana is another girl that we of course one of the best players in the world. Nana Dagnity, she's a regular Gibraltar participant, and she was also on the fence for a long time. And in the end, she wasn't able to come for whatever reason, So that's a shame. But anyway, we have Bella, and I managed to get Leila Javakashvili through the door at the last minute as a kind of replacement.
I see.
And also because it was so late, she didn't have time to apply for a Gibraltar visa. But with some help from the
she was able to do the Schengen.
Thank you very much, guys, by the way, for helping that. Then we managed to get her through the front doors at the last minute.
Do you have any favorites for the ladies? I mean, for that.
You want to rephrase that?
No. I mean, I'm only asking you who do you think is going to win the top prize?
Ooh, I don't know.
What do you think? I'm curious to see how the two girls who were in Weikanze, how they play here.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Because it's always like a double-edged sword on one hand, they've got some practice.
Well, right? Anna did
well. Anna did very well. Yeah, Zhao Shui had a kind of a sub-standard tournament for herself, And, just coming after such a, pretty tiring.
About the she nearly missed a flight to Malaga because her driver, Leonard, was involved in this, but her driver fell asleep, right? I think Leonard or something.
Yeah. So they had she had to taxi had to come at 4 in the morning.
Taxi due at 4 and the guy wasn't there.
No, so at 5:30, she got a little bit nervous.
Past 5, wow.
So, but Leonard sent me this great picture of Xiao Shui at the airport just in time, and she looked radiant that she just made it. That was really
sometimes it happens that someone who doesn't perform well in one tournament makes up for it in the next event.
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty often, and in that sense, I feel like Zhao Shui could do quite well here. Like I had that experience
she won
last year.
Right? She's the defending women's champion in Gibraltar. Yeah.
She drew Vasily last year in the last round.
Last round, yeah.
Like last year, I had a pretty dismal tournament in Reykjavik, and I flew to Astana for the Women's World Team Championship, like right after, and wound up getting like the gold medal on my board and a GM performance norm. So there was.
I wonder why that is. Yeah, there's quite any chess player could tell you the same kind of thing.
Right.
This kind of pattern.
How do you even explain it? You know. But I think in some sense you want to make up for your poor result.
Yeah.
Like, and you're happy you're getting this chance right away.
And it's almost when a tournament started off on the wrong foot and things are going badly, it's quite hard to get out of that, isn't it?
Right. But this way you feel
once
like
it's over, you've played the round 9 and whatever it is, and then even 2 days later you're starting fresh, not out of naught. Everyone's on the starting grid at the same place, and you kind of the bad stuff's behind you, right?
Right.
Often.
I think also Stefanova has good chances to do well here. She always seems to be very close to the top prize. Has a lot of experience,
we'll see. Anyway, should we call it a day there maybe? And Simon, you want to come back on the show? Have a little break, Pete, and bring back Simon. Yeah. You up for that? Yeah. And well, Irina, we'll have another chat.
Yes, we'll talk soon, Stuart. Thank you for joining me.
We'll bring in some special guests on another day as well.
Yeah, hopefully some of the players.
Some of the players for sure.
We would love to interview some of them.
We'll bring you some players, don't worry.
Yes.
Yeah, we can bring some players. Brilliant. Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Hi, well, welcome back again. We're going to now move on to the games. There's been a couple of results, and it's very nice to have Stuart here discussing how the progress of Gibraltar's gone, growing from strength to strength every year, it seems, and it's really a big thing over here, the chess tournament. So, I mean, actually, when I go into town sometimes, sort of, people recognise you sometimes from doing the commentary, which is
Really?
which is a bit bizarre, yeah. So I'm not
That's,
used to that
that's
kind
because
of,
you've been doing it
treatment,
for so many years, Simon.
I know, I'm an old hand at the commentary.
Right, I
so,
haven't had anyone recognize me yet.
No, okay.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure they will do. But, so, yeah, very interesting game, this one Richard Rapport's playing, and someone did comment that he looks very nervous. So I don't know, he's moving at extremely fast pace, and it's really bizarre that he's spending under 30 seconds to move, really. So I don't know if he tends to move very quickly normally, or this is just a one-off tactic he's trying to use. I mean, if we look at the position, Irina, okay, I mean, it's Richard's gone rook f7, material speaking, White's probably doing fine, but I think there's a danger here that White has.
The bishop on a2 is horrible.
Bishop on a2 is horrible, and maybe Black can somehow win the h2 pawn
Right.
at some stage, and then White's going to have to deal with two outside passed pawns, and minor pieces are very bad at dealing with these pawns. So I don't know. It's strange. I mean, I don't think White can ever win this position. So I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it's going to really be quite hard for Richard to win this position as well if White plays accurately. But I'm not sure. It's a hard one to access this. I mean, I don't know what you think, Irina, about this.
Black is definitely better. He's definitely going to win the h2 pawn. White can try taking on a4 now, getting rid of one of those passed pawns and giving up f2 and h2. You know, his king is going to be pretty awkward somewhere on b3 or b1. And his minor pieces are going to be both on the a file, far away from the h pawn.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if White wanted to try to get a draw, would something, knight takes a4, at the moment White is deciding whether he should retain the f2 pawn by playing something like knight d3, or whether he can simplify the position with something like knight takes a4. Now, let's just look at knight takes a4 first, because it's forcing. Now, rook takes f2 check, let's say king b3,
Sure.
try to keep the king active, rook takes h2, and now maybe I could try to get my bishop to e6, and my plan is to, at some point, sacrifice my bishop for your pawn and win the d6 pawn.
Right, maybe you could put your bishop on e6 and your knight on e4.
Yeah.
Maybe you try to attack the d6 pawn.
And then maybe bring my king around. So
Well, how quickly does Black's pawn advance here? So h5.
h5. I mean, this might be too slow.
Maybe king g7.
King g7.
Well, let's say h4.
Yeah, let's keep pushing. And now I will try to bring
Knight to c3.
Yep. And now we have to put our king on e7, I'm assuming, to try to guard this d pawn. So maybe something like king f7. I mean, if h.
But then the knight gets to g5, and then you'll never win.
Okay. So if h3 here.
But if h3 here, knight to e4.
Knight to e4, and now my plan is simply.
Well, you could go. Oh, you don't have rook f2.
Okay.
And you don't have the check either because of knight g3.
Okay. Yeah.
So what do you do?
If I play rook
You can
to
play
h1,
rook e2. Rook e2.
Rook e2.
And leads to a draw.
Yeah. I mean, is this a draw? How does White?
Bishop h. Oh, bishop h2. You take the knight.
Take the knight. Yeah. And this pawn is looking very dangerous all of a sudden. It just depends whether White can somehow exchange off the h pawn and the d pawn and keep a minor piece. It's looking like it's quite hard to achieve that, actually. So.
Well, rook e2 is a lucky move for Black to have.
Yeah, yeah. So, so we are going to do some commentary for chess.com, aren't we? So this has been said by one of our Twitter guys. So Daniel from chess.
Hey, Danny.
Chess.com, and
yes, I mentioned. I mentioned that.
We will be joining you, so it's going to be good to.
So we should mention to all the people that last year followed us, try to chat with us in the chat room, gave us all this nice feedback. That right now we're actually not seeing anything that you guys are writing to us.
No,
so we're going to try to iron that out for tomorrow so we can interact more with our viewers. But for today, if you're wondering why we are surprisingly silent, that's the reason that we're not actually reading the chat room comments right now.
But we're still getting the Twitter feed, so if you want to contact us via Twitter, at, I believe, Gib Chess, then we will be able to see your tweets then and respond to some of your comments. Okay, yeah, so Richard is pushing for a win, but there's still a fair bit of work to do here. Now, there's been some results, so maybe we'll have a look at some of the results very soon. But there's been a lot of results actually. Maybe we can go back to Vichigov's game though, because that was completely crazy, this game. And we started to analyse this, and
he's still playing, right?
He's still playing. So I actually spoke to a friend of mine outside while I was having a break, and he said, according to the computer, after Queen to C1 check, the position I said, so this position, which I just said, white's winning here,
right.
The computer slightly prefers black. Can you believe it? I can't believe that the computer thinks that black is slightly better in this position, which I'm quite amazed is that really true? But anyway, we've got a lot of action here, so let's see how things have developed. So Queen takes C2 was played, Bishop takes H5, and now we looked at Knight B4, but it looked something maybe slightly wrong with that move. So, by the way, Black is an IM from Norway, so he's, I believe, an older IM.
You've done some research, Simon.
I have, yeah. I spoke to a Norwegian friend, so that was research, and it was quite fascinating. He was telling, I was asking about the World Championship match in Norway and how the press and everyone basically warmed to this match, and he's basically saying now chess in Norway is the #1 sport or game. You know, football players. So
Carlsen is having the kind of effect on chess in Norway that Fischer had on chess in the US.
Exactly the same.
Single-handedly, like leading to a boom.
Exactly. He's done something great for chess so far in Norway, and so many people.
I heard that during the match, people, like non-chess players would be following it live, in the trains and the buses and so on. And so, I mean, you can just see, what an impact it had.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant for chess. So, okay, but Black now just played solidly. Well, I say solidly.
Yeah, someone suggested that move, rook f6, to us from the audience.
It's a Norwegian guy.
Was it?
It was a Norwegian guy. So Norwegians think alike by the looks of it. So, okay, so rook takes f6, g takes f6, and now what looks like a fairly passive move here.
Wow.
It's not the kind of move I wouldn't have thought is going to punish Black. Maybe Black's okay though. Maybe Black's very interesting opening has not been so bad after all. I don't know. I mean, it's let's get to the current position. So bishop to f3, and this bishop is consolidating some squares, and it allows the h pawn to now run up the board. So that's obviously going to be a very dangerous pawn. Black is still really only playing with a queen and potentially a knight on c6, so he's only got 2 active pieces. There's another problem. But very murky position. Queen c4. Okay, so
he wants to play queen b4, trade queens, and white makes a prophylactic move.
Okay, yep.
Or maybe knight b4, so a3 makes sense.
And now Black tries to develop his bishop on c8. So by playing b6, and now bishop can maybe come to a6, maybe come to b7, but at least it does something for the bishop on c8. Rook c3, queen d4, and now a very interesting move, which will seems to win material here. Rook takes c6. So Black has to give the check here. Has to check on g1, otherwise
it looks good. It looks good for white, this turn of events.
Yeah, because after king takes, this is all quite a forcing variation. D takes c6, queen to d8 check, king to g7. The white queen just takes an e7, and now,
queen d4 is kind of forced because of knight e8 check coming, and you need to protect the f6 pawn. Queen d4, there's this check from c4. But
this looks very bad for Black now because the exchange.
Yeah, knight e8 exactly. That's what I was thinking about. I don't know how you hold f6 because on king g6 there's h5. Probably king g6.
King g5. But this is not the kind of chess you want to be playing. Queen takes f7. This could be over very quickly. The critical moments was probably when he allowed this rook takes c6 tactic. Yeah, so if
move
we go
21.
back to that position, it was after a3, Black played b6 here, which could be quite a big mistake. But the problem here is Black is really only playing now with the queen, because there's no other piece that black can move.
What about the knight? The knight from c6
Yeah.
can move now?
Whoops, let me just go back to that position. So, okay. So after a3, so what, something like knight e5, is that level?
Knight e5.
Okay, let's have a look. Knight to e5. So trying to activate, and
But rook c3.
okay.
The queen is actually the one piece that you're playing with. Actually, does not have a lot of squares.
a2 and a4.
Yes, a2 and a4, the only
Yeah.
two squares.
Yeah,
That's quite
it's very bad.
uninspiring.
Yeah, sure. Because if you go something like queen a4, then, well, I mean, maybe white can even consider just pushing the h pawn.
Oh, wait, I have an idea. You know, when I see this piece that can't move, I'm always thinking how to trap it.
Right.
What are your ideas on
Well,
that,
it's a
Simon?
rook on b8. Do you mean? I mean, you could go knight takes e6.
Yeah, you could knight e6, that's true. You can take the rook on b8.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking here about the idea of b4 and knight b2. And finally
Okay.
activating that
Okay.
knight on d1. What do you think?
Also,
Can we win it? Can we just win the queen on the
Very.
next move?
that's what they call a cheeky move. You know, just very,
Yeah,
just trying to trap the queen with knight to
I'm
b4.
trying to solve some tactics, you know.
I mean, b3 as well was that even better?
b3, queen a5,
Right.
b4, and then the queen goes to
B6.
b6. But this way, the queen just looks trapped.
Knight b2. Nice idea there. And yeah, it's horrible. This
So
is a horrible
black
position.
was in a lot of trouble anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I guess this is a danger with this position. White can maybe make the slight mistake, but if black makes one error because he's so passive,
Yeah.
he's defending, then
Yeah,
this
he
one error
tried to
could
do
be
something
horrible.
natural to develop the bishop on c8, but
Yeah,
it looks like it had
It's-
tactical
it
refutation.
looks like game over now. Yeah. And okay, so yeah, after the position we currently have is after king g6, but I expect this game is not going to last much longer here, just because look at the black king. White's got too many pieces attacking. White can now simply play h5 check. That could even be something stronger, but h5 check.
I like h5,
h5 check looks very simple. And if king g5,
queen f7.
queen f7.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a perpetual after queen c4, king f2,
Yeah,
and queen d4.
our king can.
Can go to even. One thing you don't maybe want to do is take it to h3. You know, because there is e5,
right?
it's a little bit
Yeah.
annoying. But king f1 here, I think you can just go.
Even king g3, because if you check, I can maybe go to h3. If you check on e5, king
Right.
h3.
Yes, here
king
you can
f1's
do that.
good, and basically, white's just going to play queen g6, queen g7. It's going to be mate.
Yeah.
Black's only playing the queen, so I don't see black surviving this position for.
Well,
much
still a
longer.
pretty nice game from Vitugov.
So yeah, very nice game. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
he
yeah.
let him,
Yeah.
go a little bit.
Yeah.
He probably was reluctant to make those moves like bishop f3. But you
Yeah.
know, given that black never actually developed his pieces,
Yeah.
you know, probably Vitugov didn't make any like big mistakes in
Yeah.
his realization
Yeah,
of
and
the
he's
advantage
handled
here.
the sort of pressure of coping with
Yeah.
a bizarre opening quite well here. I mean, a lot of people could just crack, but he's kept it cool.
Well,
He's,
yeah, you know,
he's-
crack. He's still playing
he's-
someone 500
yeah,
points
I know.
lower rated than him. I don't know
he's-
if he's if Iceman,
He's
you know,
the
is going to
Iceman.
crack under the move
Right.
bishop c5. But
the Iceman doesn't crack, so as we've seen before. Okay, well, let's look at another game now. So we've had some results, and today we haven't looked at maybe a great number of games. We'll try to look at more tomorrow. Let's try to catch up with another game. So I can't. There's no upsets so far that I can see. We'll just finish off Nigel's game. We won't spend too long on his game because he won very quickly after we last took a look at his position, and we're wondering. Well, someone suggested the possible move here of knight takes e6, but Nigel's got a nice advantage, and he played with f4, which is a good positional move. f5's a threat in some
yeah, I was
positions.
thinking about this move f4. There are a couple of points here. I mean, the main point that white is playing here against the knight on b8. So obviously you can't go to d7 because f5 traps the bishop. You can't, when you take on c5, this is what happens in king b2, right? So you also cannot bring out the knight to c6 because knight b3 traps the rook.
Yep.
That was a neat little point. So the problem for black is that black actually had no easy way to develop that knight on b8. And obviously you don't want to go to a6 and let white just capture there and have like an extra pawn in the center for free.
Sure. Yeah, it looks very.
So
This is a very safe way that Nigel's played, in
Yeah.
a very good way. And I mean, I'm not a great fan of Black's next move, but as you've just demonstrated, practically it's very hard to find a good plan for Black here. The problem with G6 is, well, you're putting a pawn on another light square.
and you're
And-
weakening the whole structure on the
Yeah.
king side, so that if there ever is an exchange on e6, you know, you're going to have a lot of pawns moved up to the 6th rank. And Nigel exploits this really well. I mean, I think in style, or you know, in spirit, his idea is kind of similar to what Jack suggested to
Sure.
us with this knight takes e6 and e4 move earlier.
Yeah, so now Nigel plays c4. And, well, I'd imagine after Black's next move it's really game over, because I don't think Black can allow a white rook to come to d8 in these types of positions, because then, as in the game, we'll shortly see the Black knight on b8 and the rook
Right.
on a8 are completely tied down. So very hard to suggest a move here, but maybe Black, it was now time to develop the knight somewhere. I don't know, knight c6 runs into knight b3.
Yeah, it loses the exchange, and then the knight comes to c5.
Yeah, it's a very, very disgusting position anyway. But okay, well, let's have a look how it finished. It went d takes c4, and now Nigel put his rook on d8. So we can see in the position that basically arose here.
Yeah, he sacrificed a pawn, and then is just simply developing pieces. Bishop e2. Yeah, it's very hard for Black to unpin on the 8th rank, so she tries to exchange off the rooks, but
Yeah. Yeah, and Black's helpless. The knight on b8 and the rook on a8 just cannot move. So,
yeah.
and okay, so Nigel swapped one type of advantage for another type of advantage in this position.
Actually, a very nice game by Nigel.
Yeah, very
It
nice
wasn't
game.
made too difficult by his opponent, but
Yeah, sure. I mean, rook takes d5 is obviously a good move, but I'd also.
you were
be
thinking about
tempted-
bishop f3.
Yeah, I'd quite like to play bishop f3, king d4, and just try to stop the black pieces from ever moving. That'd be, because what can Black play here? If I just go bishop f3, you can never move your knight on c6, b8. You can never move your rook on a8. So this could be, this looks quite strong as well. Okay, if my king comes to d4, you go knight c6 check. So maybe it's a bit hard to make progress here. But maybe Black could even be in position as Zhuang. For example, king e6. Now, if I play a4,
Maybe king e7 first.
king e7. Okay, so I'll play. Oh, you're going to go king c7.
Yeah, I was gonna try to go like king d6 or something. Of course, you can play this way and take pawns
Yeah.
on the 6th rank, but
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
we can move on to another game.
Yeah, let's move on. Okay, we'll just show you the end of this game. Knight c6, white took, and yeah, white's pieces are far too active here, and he wins a very important pawn to be 2 pawns up, and then this is the final position. So quite a smooth start to this year's Congress for Nigel, I think. And there was no danger in that game whatsoever, and yeah, just a nice game. So which game would you like to look at now, Irina?
Well, how about we look at one of my favorites in this tournament, David Navarro.
Okay.
Remember I told you early on I was looking forward to seeing how he would crush Black in this position?
Aha, okay, and we're going to find out.
And we'll see, yes.
Okay, so again, we'll go through the opening moves fairly quickly. And e3 was played, which I don't know too much about this e3 move, but it seems like it's transposing now to a queen's
Queen's Gambit accepted.
Accepted, yeah.
Yes, it's an opening I've played for a good chunk of my life. Queen e2
You played this with Black or with white?
for Black.
Black,
I
okay.
mean, I've also played against it as
Yeah.
white.
And now,
CD, so we get into an isolated pawn,
Mhm.
something I've been studying recently. Let's see if I can
Yep.
come up with any interesting insight.
So generally, I think it's fair to say that strong players prefer playing with the isolated pawn than against the isolated pawn.
Right.
In general.
I think so.
Yeah.
If they know, yes, I mean, because strong players have tended to study those types of positions, and they're
Yeah.
familiar with all these techniques.
Yeah, and normally you'll find that the person with the isolated pawn generally gets the attacking chances.
Right.
But if the defender, so the person who's playing against the isolated pawn, can neutralise the attack and maybe exchange off a number of pieces, then he will have good chances in the late middle game and end game. So interesting to see, like you say, how Navarro
Do you want?
develops this attack. So rook's good on d1, because sometimes it even comes around to the king side. Is that fair to say? So it can come to d3 and over to g3. in some positions I've seen this plan, and d5 is another idea that black has to worry about. So knight b6, bishop b3, bishop d7, so black's developing. Good square for a knight on e5. Bishop c6, and now, okay, so rook d3 was played. So the rook can often come to g3 or h3, and both of these squares give good attacking chances against the black king. And Navarra is a great player. He's amazing at calculating, absolutely.
And he's such a sweet guy.
He
was very nice about posing for a picture for me today.
He got him to pose for a picture.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to do some photography before the round, so I could have some material to send to the US Chess.org website. And he smiled at me and for the picture. And unfortunately, though, when I took the picture, he closed his eyes.
Oh dear! So he had a smile with his eyes closed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'll have to redo it.
It's still nice of him to smile. So.
There's a trick, to getting people to smile for the picture.
Smile at them?
You have to smile at them, Simon, yes.
Okay, that works, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Unless, they're stone cold, then it won't provoke any reaction. Yeah, this is where I saw this game around bishop e4. Black was trying to remaneuver his bishop to g6. To somehow avoid getting mated along the g file. And Navarra, he made this interesting move c4 here. First of all, as you can see, that's a pawn sack.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I suppose that if you can get your bishop to b2, then you're lining up the bishop and the rook against g7, so there's some idea of playing d5 at some point.
Let's look at the move queen takes d4 here.
Yeah, okay, so queen takes d4, bishop b2?
Yep, and queen c5. Well, queen c5 runs into knight d7 at the minimum, and actually a lot of black's moves do.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, rook d1 and knight d7. I think that's the main idea. I'm almost, I'm almost thinking, like it would be nice to be able to do something like rook takes g7, king takes, queen takes e4, knight takes e4. Knight g4, king g8, knight h6 mate. But it's a little bit. You need some cooperation from black to fall into that line.
Yeah, so it's not really a pawn sacrifice then, I guess.
No, it's not really. No, it's an interesting positional move, though. I was actually interested in this from the positional point of view, because if you look at this position, the most natural move for white is bishop h6.
Bishop g5, bishop h6.
Bishop h6, but then black plays bishop g6, and it's not clear how to break through there.
Yeah.
So he actually transferred his bishop to a totally different diagonal. It's not obvious that c4 closing in that bishop is the right move, it's a little bit paradoxical, but I'd be interested to see what the computer thinks about this particular position.
Okay, so c4.
So
yes. Let's just show that line if black did take the pawn on d4, just to bishop b2. Then the nice trick that was pointed out was if the queen moves, let's say to c5, for example, then this killer blow, knight to d7, is a very attractive move. And the danger here is if black moves the queen on c5, well, you just take on f6 and you win a piece. So
can you show us the mate, Simon, after knight takes d7?
I was wondering about that. Not immediately, no. Okay, so rook takes g7.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so king to h8, and now we have...
Queen e4 is good enough.
Queen e4 is good enough.
Queen e4 wins. Unfortunately, rook h7 does not win yet because you don't have the h5 square for your queen.
Right,
so queen c5. But we can show that why.
Okay, so...
this would be a nice move to make.
And then if the queen wasn't on c5,
you could have queen h5 and queen h8 mates.
But the simple way, I think, to win this after king h8, there could be something stronger, but the simplest option is just
it's strong enough. You're recapturing a very strong defender.
Well, it's going to be mate now, isn't it? Definitely. So h7 is friend and some rook move.
Yes.
So actually very nice idea, c4. I haven't really seen that idea in this type of position before, and I guess this bishop on b2 is going to become a very good piece. So slightly surprised that black moved the bishop to f5 and not g6. If I was black here, I'd just want to cover the g file by playing bishop to g6. So well, he had ideas of putting his knight to e4, and I guess he didn't want his bishop to be sort of hanging on g6. Okay.
Because then knight e4 would be impossible because the rook takes g6 and you get the 2 pieces for the rook.
Yeah.
So that's his idea.
Yeah. So the danger was if bishop g6, if I go
Bishop b2.
and now knight to e4 does not work because of rook takes g6, and well, white's going to get a winning material edge here. So that is probably why bishop to g6 was played in this position. If we just go back, sorry, bishop f5 was played. So black now continues the plan of bishop b2, and I'm sure the idea now is to go d5. If you give white one more move, white will play d5,
He might prepare that. He might play rook d1.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess, again, let's say rook c8, for example.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you don't need to prepare that because there's a similar tactic before. We can go d5. And
right, you don't have to take it.
I think if black ever... Like,
no, yes, you cannot take it.
Yeah, knight c6 is a killer.
Don't make me, like, as if I'm playing moves like that, Simon.
I know you always play d5, I'm sure, yeah. So, but yeah, it's horrible, actually, this position for black, isn't it? The more I look at it, the more I really...
Well, white has... let's talk about this position for a second. I mean, maybe not all of our viewers understand why it's so powerful for white. I mean, white has the hanging pawns in the center, which is usually, you know, a double-edged thing because they can also be a weakness. Here, the thing is that these hanging pawns are actually really well supported, and black does not actually have any pressure on them at all. White's rook and knight's already in ideal positions on e5 and g3. So all that really remains here is to put the remaining piece into play, the rook on a1. And like I said, you know, black has no way to put pressure on white's center, and it's not clear where black's counterplay is going to come from. So that's why this is a pretty prospectless position for black.
Yeah, it looks actually horrible, this position for black, and you certainly don't want to be defending. This is black against David Navarra.
But let's see how he finished up, because I was curious about that. So rook e3, knight d6. So the knight has been transferred. Who knows why?
I think black's struggling for a plan here. So okay, you're covering g7.
Yeah. The thing is, you know, Navarra is an interesting player. So he's not actually winning by routine means here. Like this move g4, followed by. Okay, he's just kind of creative. It's not that hard to see actually, but now he's using the pin on the e pawn to push through this move d5, and yeah, this is a winning position.
It's a very nice use of tactics here because bishop takes c5 was a move that a lot of players would see bishop takes c5 and not calculate anymore. But David's obviously calculated this position here, where he's material down. But
yes, he's threatening to win the rook with e7. And also positionally, probably e takes f7 could be good in some lines.
Look how powerful those bishops are. Those bishops are absolutely.
It turns out that the h file is not available to the king because of queen h3 mate. Yeah. So rook f7.
Ooh, looks horrible.
Here, and the queen takes the place of the bishop. Nice game.
Really
I like.
game.
Remember last year, Navarra also had a very nice game in the first round.
We thought he.
we thought he was on the losing end of that or something, but yeah, now he starts off again with a very nice game. I like his style. I feel like he wins stylishly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, otherwise you can just tell the bishops on b2 and b3.
And a little bit, a little bit creative. Like there's certain decisions he makes. Like I mean, rook d3 to g3 was nice. I guess that's why he played queen e2. It was maybe not the only way to play that position. And nice c4 and g4.
Yeah, very nice game for him by David Navarra, and I'm sure he's going to be a real contender for the top places in this.
Hopefully.
In this tournament.
So far in this tournament, I don't think he's ever done that amazing.
I think it's a bit unpredictable sometimes, David. So you can play games like that, which are just he can beat anyone in the world, but occasionally he can have disastrous games. And the problem when you're playing in an open, it's very hard to recover if you have one slip up. I mean, if you're going for the big prizes, first place or something like this, if you lose a game, you can really, you're not struggling to get back into the tournament. So this is the only danger that I've seen David sort of fail to in the past. You can just have, do something very odd. I mean, maybe the same with Chucky. Sometimes, say Chucky and Vanchuk is a great player when he's on form and he can beat anyone in the world. But occasionally he just does these absolutely crazy things where he drops a piece or he forgets he's actually got a clock he's playing with as well. So You saw this at the candidates. He lost something. I don't know.
Several games on time,
several
right?
games, maybe 4 or 5 games. He forgot there was a clock. You know, that he was playing with. It's bizarre. You know, you have to think actually, what is he thinking? You know, what is he? You know, you should know there's a clock, so you've got to move. So it's, you know, very strange. He's lost so many games on time.
How is he doing in his game right now, Simon?
Yeah, let's have a look. 'Cause he normally
He's
gets
playing
very
I Am
interesting-
Letterman
Okay, so
on board 3.
we'll have a very quick look at this.
We haven't seen his game at all today.
No.
Why does it say that he's only on move 22? Is that even possible?
Could he lose on time again? Oh my God, he's got 8 minutes left. This is, like I said, the only danger probably that Ivanchuk faces in a number of his games is he just loses on time, for no reason whatsoever.
Let's
Yes.
just go to the current position and see what's going on over here.
Yeah. So king on e7.
Well, he's got a good position.
He's got a
That's
very good
pretty.
position.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
White hasn't developed very harmoniously in this game, and it looks like black and white are playing 2 different games here.
Yeah.
Doesn't it look like that? I mean, what is the knight doing on g4?
Yes. Yeah, black's pieces are all perfectly placed. Yeah, you know, knights are dominating the board. Bishop on g7 is very strong. Rook on
Soon there's going to
c8.
be tactics, maybe even on the c2 square.
Some
I
nasty-
mean,
yeah.
something to consider at least.
White's king's on d1 looks very odd on that square. So black's got a lovely position here, and
Yeah, and maybe he has an idea even somewhere like rook c6, rook c8.
mhm. Yeah, maybe some tactic, like you said, but knight takes c2 at some moments. You know, you've got moves like f5 as well to just try to improve the position. h5.
Right.
White's got double pawns on the f file, so
Yeah.
I think positionally this is winning for black.
Right.
I mean, the only slight danger, like I mentioned, is Ivanchuk does have 8 minutes left, so as long as he remembers his clock, he will win this game. But he's just got to be a bit wary there.
Let's take a look at the
Yeah,
game
some time.
Vallejo versus Maisuradze. So Vallejo is somebody who hasn't played tournaments in a while. Very strong player who I think got a little bit dejected after playing some super tournaments where he didn't do very well and basically said he was taking a break from chess. And he's playing Nino Maisuradze, obviously a player of Georgian extraction. She plays for France, and I played her in the Women's World Team Championship at Astana
Okay.
last year, so I know this player a little bit. And they are in time pressure. Both of them actually know Vallejo has a lot more time.
Let's go to current position.
Yes,
again,
current
shall we?
position
So,
is my preference too.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember I had taken a look at this game. It looked like white was better, and it looks like white is winning.
I think
Now,
yeah,
white
this-
has an extra pawn and an attack on the king. It's not clear what black has to show for it.
No, this bishop on c4 is a very good piece compared to the dark square bishop on d6, and also the knight on e4.
Yes, right now
That's
the immediate
g5.
threat is bishop takes d5 and knight f6, just
Yeah,
winning.
just winning, and you got knight g5 that black's going to have to worry about. So it looks like a fairly simple winning position for white here. Too many threats to deal with. Yeah, it's interesting because he's a very imaginative player. Like you know, I think his nickname's Paco. I think people call him
Paco.
Yeah, but he's very, very imaginative. He loves crazy positions. He seems to really excel in crazy, sort of dynamic, interesting positions. And it's strange that someone so strong, 2700 plus, very still reasonably young chess player,
Yeah.
just stops playing just because he gets dejected by the result. Maybe he's just had a bit of time out,
Right.
which is a pity for chess. But it's good to see him back here playing. I mean, he lost two. I remember he was.
Well, I think, basically I think the desire to quit chess is kind of universal among chess players. Don't you think, Simon?
Many times?
I think, from what I know, my, high-level players, even interviews that I read, different pronouncements that Ivanchuk has made over his career. I recently read an interview by Nepomniachtchi. I think it's a pretty widespread phenomenon that after particularly disappointing results, you emotionally you feel like, okay, you just want to end this,
Yeah, I suppose.
And I've definitely felt like that for short times. I mean,
But the strange thing is, a lot of people might feel that briefly, that they kind of want to just give up chess, but they always come back to it. They always come back to it. Nearly all, I don't know one grandmaster. Well, actually, there's someone's brother in here who's never come back. So Jeremy Hodgson's brother, Julian Hodgson, actually just gave up chess. So yeah, very, very strong chess player. So there are some cases, actually in England there's quite a fair few cases actually, but generally people will come back to chess. So rook to e5, and okay, what's going to happen if I take and go knight f6?
Well, if you take where you take where?
If I take on d5?
Queen d5, knight f6, queen
Okay.
queen f7 is the defense
This is the
planned.
defense. Okay, so knight f6 then. So I'll just go through that again. So that's after rook e5 has been played in the game. So we can't go bishop takes d5. Well, we can, but maybe it doesn't achieve too much after knight to f6, just queen to f7.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no obvious
Yeah, I'm not sure why we
continuation
gave
here.
up our strong bishop.
So maybe some other idea with knight g5 looks very logical here. Knight g5, how does black defend after knight to g5? Okay, I mean obviously if you
Well,
have to
rook
go-
e7 is not a good defense, Simon. Do you know why?
I can see a good check there. So yeah, I can see rook e7 does defend against one checkmate, but not against another checkmate. So yeah, that's not the way to go.
What would you like to do? Maybe queen
I'm not
to
sure there's much to do there.
d7, queen to d7.
Queen to d7. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to defend here. And how do we continue now? Holding, just about holding.
Yeah, you're holding.
Not very inspiring, but it is holding. So is there something
Wait.
stronger than knight
Maybe,
g5?
like, do we have a move like f4 here?
F4.
I know it weakens our king a little bit,
Okay.
but I want to know how you're defending that knight on d5.
Can I go knight? No, I can't go knight takes f4 because of knight f7. I wanted to go knight takes f4 and some queen g4 check with some counterplay, but even that actually doesn't look too strong. But knight to f7 check is
Right.
going in here, so
So what would
f4.
f4? I mean, my idea is basically to occupy the e file because I want the rook on a1 to find a job in this game.
I guess you want to go rook to e8, so after something like rook to f5,
Yeah. Now, without thinking, you bring your pieces into the game. Rook e1.
yeah. And now rook to e8
Rook
is
to 8 is a threat.
nasty threat.
It's always nice when you can bring new pieces into the game. That's one of the most pleasurable things to do in chess. Don't you think, Simon?
When they start
You know,
working
finding a job for those unemployed pieces,
together. Yeah. It's always good when they start working well. And
and bringing in some dividends to you.
yeah, of course, yeah. And every white piece here.
I'm done
That's
with
what
all
I'm
the
onto, so-
economic parallels. I think.
Yeah. And yeah, this is good, isn't it? This is very good. But is there anything? Is it anything easier after rook to e5? Maybe there's even a clearer win here. I mean, I don't know. We won't spend too long.
Okay, let's not spend too long. I think we found something
Actually, I mean, it looks
decent.
like Kamsky, your kind of Patriot from
Right.
played a
You
very
want it-
nice game in the King's
yes.
Indian. So maybe we can. Have
And
a look
let's
the
take a look at
end of that
Gata's game. And what's funny is that I didn't think his opening was that promising. So things must have went very wrong for white at some point, because I don't think this is supposed to have happened.
So I mean, we have a typical King's Indian here.
Yeah, not so typical. This move c6, a little
C6
bit
is a-
rare.
Normally black will play knight c6, e5, this kind of thing, e5 first, but c6 is slightly peculiar, and then bishop to g4 is a more sort of slower setup where you try to weaken the d4
Yeah.
square. But white's position went bad very quickly after an exchange on f3, and okay, a4 is always a move I'd really try to avoid playing because of a5 and the b4 square becomes a massive hole. It's not so important now that black's knight is on d7. I guess if the knight was on b8, it could quickly hop into this square. So bishop to e2, and now typical King's Indian e5 move. Queen d2, rook to e8. So maybe...
Yeah, this is where, like around where I saw the position a few moves later, d5. And I was concerned that black's bishop on g7 would not be so good. I mean, white has the bishop here. Of course, yeah, this move a4. The inclusion of a4, a5 is... Okay, queen c2. Yeah, I saw this position and I don't really see a problem for white here. I don't see why white has to have a big problem. He has some problems with squares right after rook c8, like how to defend e4.
I think, yeah, this is a problem. I mean, if you have to play f3, you're really weakening your position on the king side. I mean, white played f3 now, and this move would be okay if the pawn on h3 was back on h2. But the problem now is this g3 square, the f4 square, incredibly weak. So if you have to play a move like f3, things have gone wrong. So
what do you think about bishop f3? I kind of like that more.
Yeah.
Even bishop d3, like any move.
So we'll just go back. Yeah, and bishop.
What do you think is better, bishop d3 or bishop f3? The bishop doesn't have a lot of potential in f3, but at least it's not...
I'd like to play something like bishop f3, g3, bishop g2, and just consolidate on that side of the board. The problem with bishop d3, it seems like...
I like bishop f3, let's play that.
Yeah, bishop f3 makes a lot more sense. So instead of f3, I really don't like to move f3 just positionally. This looks horrible. So
let's look at bishop f3.
So bishop f3, and now... Is there some tactic? There's nothing with knight takes e4 here, and f5. I don't think that's right for the position.
No.
Maybe there's an idea with queen b6 and queen b3. This kind of plan.
Queen b6 is interesting.
Maybe queen b6.
Yes, if only white could bring that pawn back to a2.
Yes.
He's not really able to use the b5 square, unfortunately, because of all these tactics on the c file.
And also another plan behind queen b6 is just to go queen b4.
Queen d4
well,
and attack.
Piling the pressure onto the e4 square. I mean, if white ever has to capture the knight on c5, this is nearly always a bad decision, because the dark squares, at some point, this bishop on g7 has potential to join in the game, but also just look at the c file. I mean, black has domination of the queen side here as well. So maybe the first mistake was this a4 move. I mean, Kamsky played very well after f3. He really sort of took advantage
of
this move.
Yeah, this is a good positional game.
Yes, f3. So immediately, black plays knight to h5, trying to move the knight into
his
g3.
next maneuver is particularly instructive. Bishop f6. Remember, like I was saying, that I was concerned what black was going to be doing with that bishop, and immediately he sets about trying to solve that problem, trading off the dark squared bishop, and then white is just going to be left with holes on the dark squares on the king side, and with the poor light squared bishop. So, wow, is this a little sacrifice?
Well, knight to f4 looks incredibly strong here. I mean, combined with some knight jump as well. So
also, right, because there's probably some tactical move with the c knight.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a quick look if white does play.
Yeah, let's take a look at it, because it's critical.
What does black play here? Well, knight to f4 immediately springs to mind. Maybe there's another option here.
Let's play knight f4.
You know, there's some very nice idea here with knight takes e4 doesn't quite work. I wanted to make something with knight takes e4 and then queen e3 check.
And why doesn't it work?
I mean, you go after knight takes e4 here. I think you can just play queen takes e4.
But then there's also rook c1.
Rook c1.
You can win in exchange.
This might be nice. The idea here then, I don't know if there is a mate, but
right,
the queen and the knight.
Right, it seems like there should be, right?
Then you have to go to h2, I think.
Right.
Do you have to go to h2?
Well, you can't go to f1.
Maybe white's defending this. So king to h2. Queen f4, the king just goes back. And maybe this combination of all these pieces around the white king is not enough. It's just a bit surprising, but yeah. I can't see more than a draw here. So knight takes d6. Should we have a look? Let's go for knight to f4. That looks very logical. So knight to f4 has the benefit of threatening checkmate.
Bishop, let's say, to f1.
So bishop to f1, and now can we go knight takes h3 check? Is that the best move, or is there something even stronger? Well,
knight takes e4. Knight takes e4, you play knight takes e4.
Yes. Yeah, that seems to be good. And there's no other...
Maybe you start with knight h3. Start with knight h3.
Okay, so I'm
king
assuming
h2.
King h2. Queen to f4 doesn't seem to do anything, just maybe even king takes knight. And yeah, I mean, it's
knight takes e4.
Knight takes e4 now.
Yeah.
Okay. Threatening queen to g3.
And knight f2.
So if I go knight takes e4?
Queen f4. Yes, that's my idea.
Then g3?
Then rook c2 is check.
Nice idea.
But I am losing a lot of pieces along the way.
Yeah.
But I think it's good because I'm also taking an f3.
Then I go bishop g2. So the idea here, something like g3, this is probably good for
black.
For black.
We're
Let's just check this because the queen takes here, and now I'd like to try to keep my knight, so I'll go bishop here. And I just want to try, if I can win your knight on h3, maybe there's some chances. And I've got knight f6 checks.
Yeah, that's not so clear.
It's not so clear. Queen.
And the
Queen.
d pawn can be strong.
Queen f5, rook f1 is also possible. And then all of a sudden, I think white's clearly
White's better, yeah.
Definitely. So the critical move, yeah. I mean, when you're playing against strong players, I mean, people who are you might be in a bit of awe of. I mean, I guess Kamsky's one of those players. Might be the first time possibly his opponent's played someone so strong. You can't show any fear, and if there's a chance to capture something, I'm sure knight takes d6. There's some plan, very good plan that Kamsky had, but you really can't be afraid to enter complications against players high rated.
Can we try to find it, Simon? I want to rise to the challenge.
I know. It's one of those. Yeah, I mean, it's like some weird move like knight to e6. Is that possible? And then knight to d4 doesn't look completely correct, but so we're going to try to. Is that knight to e6? Is that so crazy?
Queen c8.
Okay, and what about knight to b3? I'll put it on this square. This square looks better. Knight to b3 is another possibility. After knight takes c8, I would like to play knight to d4, and the white queen seems to not have too many good squares, because if you go to d3, I go knight to f4. This is my idea. And I'm threatening the queen and checkmate on g2. So knight to c8, knight to d4 could be
Queen d1.
okay, so queen to d1, and now I could try either queen to e3 check is gaining in power, as well as other possibilities. I mean, queen and two knights attacking. This should be pretty awesome attacking combination. Where do we move the knights?
King h2. Knight takes e2.
Okay, so here and now just knight takes e2, and now something like queen to e4 check. Sorry, queen to f4 check and knight to g3 looks like it's going to be mating here.
Right.
So yeah, you can, if you want to follow us on Twitter, then if you could put the hashtag #JibChess, that would be great. So just remember to put the hashtag #JibChess, because then we get your messages up on the screen, and we will try to answer your messages. So yeah, I mean, someone's mentioned here, no one can ever be sure what's going to happen when Ivanchuk is playing. I mean, that's why it's so fascinating to watch his games, because he could just forget that he's playing with a clock and lose on time, or he could play one of the most amazing games you've ever seen ever. So this is the thing when you watch Ivanchuk. I mean, he's very interesting and quite unique in the chess world. I mean, I've said this many times before, but actually at top level, most of the sort of top players say that they're kind of really impressed by Ivanchuk. They really all say they really highly rate Ivanchuk. I think Kasparov said this before.
Right.
And they said the only thing that stops him being world champion is maybe his nerves in the past,
right.
And also his inability to deal with the clock, recently. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's just have a look at this variation one more time. So it's knight b3, is that the idea? So we've looked at knight takes c8, I mean, queen takes c8. I guess I just go rook takes c8, and this is going to be very good. But you've got, my king can sit happily on h6. So, for example, queen takes c8. I'm just going to take this back, my rook. And then rook takes c8, check. Yeah,
it looks like the decisive element here is going to be the dark squares and the attack of the queen and the two knights.
Because of this f3 move. This f3 move's just really being punished. Yeah. And the queen and two knights work so well together. Even though materially...
Queen e3 is coming.
Yeah, knight
d4. Yeah.
It's horrible. And your rook on a1's being attacked. You can flick in one more check, but I'm not so worried because I just put my king on h6 here. And yeah, the combination of pieces is just too strong. Do you think it's knight b3? Do you think that's the move, or is this potentially something even stronger? So okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's something stronger.
Sure. I mean, knight b3 looks good, but I don't know if there's. I mean, maybe even go queen e3 check first and knight b3. No, that's.
What did we not like about knight takes e4?
Knight takes e4.
We looked at this move.
Sure.
Knight c8.
We couldn't find a clear-cut win here. Even this combination, the king sort of sits maybe on h2. Bit surprising.
That the knight is more effective from d4 than from e4.
Yeah, it seems to be, yeah. Because, I mean, queen f4.
Because, yeah, from d4 you can take on e2. That's the main difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And knight b3 is really, really interesting.
Yeah. Could be a good move, yes. Mm-hmm. Someone's asked how, Zach has asked how accurate are the clocks? Rapport has over 2 hours on his opponent. Well, this is the completely bizarre thing we've been discussing today. We're wondering if Rapport was in a rush for some reason today, if he had something better to do. But
it looks like he's probably going to win.
He's going to win that, yeah, I think, yeah, definitely going to win this position. But very surprising, he's 2 hours and 25 minutes up on his opponent. Wow, I mean, what's happening? That's not normal to be that much up. He can go and have a meal and come back to the game, and he can do whatever he wants here. So, yeah, bizarre. Bizarre that he's been moving so quickly. I mean, I do not expect him to move at that speed in future. And to be honest, his game today didn't look so impressive, maybe. Still, it could be a great game. I might be missing something, but I don't know. It didn't look like he was clearly winning the whole way through the game, potentially. So, okay, but let's have a look at Kamsky's game. We'll have a look at the end of the game and see how it finished, because it looked like a nice finish. We won't spend too long on the rest of the moves. So bishop to c4 was played, and this looks far too... Okay, now after knight to f4, knight takes d6 was played. Okay, and now knight on c to d3. Interesting position. And rook to d1 was played.
Wow. There's some crazy stuff in this position.
There's some crazy stuff. Look at this next move, Irina.
I know, the next move is just amazing.
This is a great move. Okay, we're just going to look at the next move.
But why does he have to move his rook? Like, why can't he just continue by taking something?
Yeah, if in doubt, capture something.
Right, so let's figure that out.
That's a good idea. So knight takes c8, and now, well, I suppose there's a couple of options here.
One is knight takes h3.
Knight takes h3 is certainly an option. And again, this is hard to work out for... I mean,
rook c8 is possible, just taking back the material.
And you still have all these threats against White's king here. Very entertaining position. Rook takes c8, and what does White play now?
Yeah, I assume this would be good for black.
Yeah, because you're threatening rook takes c4 in this position, which is quite important, if black can play rook takes c4 and take on g2, it's mate. Where does white queen move to? White queen can't move to d2 here because we just go knight takes h3 and we win the queen. So maybe after the simple rook takes c8, there's no defense here. I don't know. I can't see anything.
Let's say we play b3.
Okay, b3, and now I'm going to copy.
Yeah, I mean, of course you can play knight c1 and knight takes g2 if you want, and you'll have
winning
a good position there.
Should we show the move he
Knight
played?
takes h3, yeah, of course.
It's an amazing move. I mean, in the game, in the position, so just bear with me, after knight takes d6, knight on c to d3, White decided to move his rook on d1, and now, what a move. This is a great move.
Beautiful idea of interference / decoy.
Yeah, very nice move. Knight to f2. Do you have a favourite piece, Irina? I mean, I know like top players generally don't really have a favourite piece.
I like the bishop.
Oh, okay. I think we had this discussion last year. And I like the knights.
Do you?
I like the knights. My favourite piece. They're so tricky. And just look at this position. Look at these tricky knights. They're just causing absolute chaos.
Yeah, that just wins the game, right? G4.
And should we show the lines?
Of course.
Tonight? I mean, if we just lose the queen. Simple.
Yeah, you lose the queen if king takes. King takes, queen takes g2, and there is an X-ray on the second rank. That's what it's called, right, Simon? An X-ray?
X-ray. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You win the queen, and if you take with the queen, you were luring the queen into this move, and you wind up winning a queen. So, and meanwhile, you're also threatening mate. Big threat. Not a lot of ways White can defend against that, except by playing g4. So now the queen comes in and starts to threaten mate again. Unfortunately, the knights cannot be captured at this point either because of knight takes h3, winning the queen. And knight takes c8, queen g3, one square, and knight takes. Mate is unavoidable here, right, Simon? Queen g1.
Queen g1 just cannot be stopped. not on the long term, and very nice game.
Nice game by Kamsky. Definitely
game.
very stylish as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I think even, of course, more difficult than Navarro's game.
Yes.
He had to do more. Black had to do more calculation in
Yeah.
this game
I
too.
think that's probably my favourite game
Yeah.
so far. That's the one I like so much, just because the combination of the Queen and 2 knights.
Yeah, it's unusual.
And also, it kind of shows the danger when you're playing against King's Indian, because often you get these positions which might look fine, but then all of a sudden you play one bad move and your opponent's piece is just running all over you. And here, the White King's just been stuck in this box, and it's just been completely overtaken, and just really good use of the Queen and 2 knights. So I think what we'll do now, we have a result in Ivanchuk's game. So I don't know if he's lost on time. Do you reckon he's lost on time?
No, I think he's won.
You think he's okay? Okay, so maybe we'll have a look at Ivanchuk's game and then have a quick break after that.
That sounds good.
So let's go to Chucky's game and see how he's getting on. Hopefully we can get Chucky in here for... I think, is he doing a masterclass? I think
He is doing a masterclass.
So another great thing at Gibraltar is that as well as the commentary here, well, I hope it's okay, but as well as the commentary here, you also have the option of looking at the masterclasses in the evening. So if you look at the schedule, which I'm sure is on the internet, on the website somewhere, you'll see that Ivanchuk is doing a masterclass. So you'll be able to watch Ivanchuk from your room at home and see what he's thinking, which, well, maybe try to see what he's thinking. I don't know. He's an individual, quite a unique person, so that'd be very interesting to see his masterclass. I don't know which day his masterclass is, actually. I'm sure we can get the information on when his masterclass is. So, okay, let's move on to his game. So, right, ended quite quick then. So, on the positions
Wow,
there.
did you see that? Why is that result?
Which Ivanchuk's
Look
game?
at Rapport's result.
I don't believe that.
You think that's the wrong result,
that's the wrong
right?
result. Rook takes d5 next.
Yes.
Okay, so
You're right.
we apparently have a result in Richard Rapport's game, and it's a draw, but I think they just set the board up wrong there.
Right.
I think his opponent's resigned, and we'll maybe show you the final position there, because there was a lot of manoeuvring about. And the final clock times are quite amusing. So in Richard Rapport's game, White, the gamekeeper, was from Switzerland. Jan Rindersbacher was from Switzerland, and he was left with 44 seconds, whilst Richard Rapport was left with 2 hours and 25 minutes. So he's... do you reckon he's learning from Nakamura? He lost his game at Wake and Z to Nakamura. Do you reckon, he's thinking, right, I need to speed up my game?
I don't know if Nakamura has ever played that fast.
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
That's really bizarre. Really bizarre playing that quick. Okay, so we'll have a look at the end of Chucky's game. So I think King to E7 was the last move we had. So just bear with me until I get that position. So King to E7, Black was dominating the board, and the only danger was he forgot to press his clock, which he has done in the past. So Rook to A3, D5. And this is a nice game.
Well, E5, right? White definitely has to keep the center closed.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this idea, but I just thought, White would be able to play E5, and I wasn't sure. But I guess he really forces White into having a very poor pawn structure with this push. And I guess he doesn't mind having the bishop on G7 a little bit, out of the game. And then he starts this idea of doubling on the C file that we talked about.
Yeah, he's got a very nice position, and White's pawn structure is horrible. If White had the F3 pawn on G3, it might not be so bad. But unfortunately, he doesn't have that as an option. So he just continues to develop and increase the pressure. Bishop to b4, the king moves out of the pin. This rather silly knight on g4 tries to move back into the game, and now this bishop you mentioned which was trapped in comes back around the angles, and c3, knight to c6, knight to d3 was knight takes d3 is the final position. And okay,
yes, he's just losing material.
White just collapsed at the end there. So
yeah, but a very unimpressive positional effort from White, of course, in this game.
That's a game you'd really want to forget about extremely quickly.
Yes.
So yeah, it's not a game you'd like to linger over.
I feel like Rapport's opponent, did a much better job of setting, some problems for his opponent.
Yeah.
than in this game.
You must be pretty demoralised that Rapport only spent like 10 seconds on the game or something. I mean,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I mean, Rapport's opponent did fight hard, but you'd still be a bit annoyed if your opponents just go.
Right.
Just
Yeah, I
bang on
can't
loose.
imagine psychologically what that feels like. I mean, for
No.
sure, it puts a
Horrible.
lot of psychological pressure on your opponent
Yeah.
when you don't spend any time at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's
Because basically what you're telling them is like, I can beat you without thinking.
exactly. Yeah, I don't.
And that is definitely demoralizing.
Yeah, it's not good. So, lots of results coming quickly. I think we're going to have a short break in a minute, it's just for a very short break, just for a couple of minutes, and we'll be back to see if there's any more live games going on, or maybe just have a look at the interesting ones, the interesting finishes to some of the games. So that'll give us a chance to pick out the most interesting games. Just looking at one game, Maxime's game, well, that looks like a very entertaining final position. So second seed Maxime looks like he's played a very good attacking game there. So I personally would quite like to have a look at that game. Maybe when we come back, quite a quick game as well. But we're just going to have a break now for a couple of minutes, so maybe a 2-3 minute break. So just make sure you come back and tune in with us in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I'd like to welcome you back, and we're just going to have a roundup now of basically lots of results, and nearly all the top games are finished. So we're just going to do 20 minutes, half an hour now, and look at the games maybe we haven't looked at previously, and just jump into maybe the final part of the games, so the last 5 to 10 moves. It looks, well, there hasn't been any upsets really. I mean, everything's gone according to form, and I'm sure tomorrow things will become more interesting, and there'll be some harder, tougher pairings. We'll start now with Maxime's game, Maxime's playing very well. I mean, you probably saw his result, most people out there at the World Cup, where he played Kramnik for the,
in the semi-finals, right?
Was it semi-final? It was the semi-finals, yeah. So
yes.
Got all the way through to semis. And against Kramnik, I think Kramnik knocked him out. That was right.
In the rapid.
In the rapid, so very good player. And it looked like he played a very nice game today. So in this position you currently have on the board, he was white. And this is obviously some Raul Lopez position. And he finished off the game now with a lovely attack, starting with f6. So releasing the bishop on c2 against black's king. Now bishop takes f6 and queen to d3.
So a clearance sacrifice.
Yeah, clearing sacrifice just to get the queen into the h7 square.
So now black responded with a clearance sacrifice of his own.
Right, so he tried to fight on with e4.
Try to open up that bishop on f6.
White just took, and exchange of rooks happened. Black tried to greedily hold on to his pawn by going h5, but the pawn was pretty irrelevant because
something bad is going to happen to black on the d6 square, isn't it? Yeah.
Something very bad does happen to black on the d6 square. Rook takes d6. That's a nice little tactic there. And now, okay, well, black really has to take this rook anyway, because it's got a bad position, so you might as well take the material and keep your fingers crossed. But this leads to a lovely finish after bishop takes d6 check. Now, if the king moves to f7 or
this
e8,
is where the knight came to e5.
Yeah, and if the king had moved, let's say, to f7, then just queen to bishop to g6 is mate, yeah. So bishop to e7 was played, and now, this nice little hunt, king hunt.
Yeah, we know from our discussion with Maxime last year that this type of calculation is not difficult for him.
He's very good at calculating. Yeah, he's a bit like Navarro, I'd say, calculation-wise. He can, if he spots a mate, he will play the mate. And after queen to h6, it is actually checkmate on the board. So that's a nice finish for Maxime. Very solid start for him. So he can be happy the way things have gone there. Now let's move on to, I don't think we'll bother with Richard Rapport's game. I mean, maybe we'll just show you the final position so you can get an idea what happened at the end. Basically, his opponent, white, was not able to capture the pawn on d6. So you can see we got a kind of position at the end here where this d6 pawn is going to win the game. Of course, if white can capture that pawn, it gets down to knight and king versus rook and king, it's a draw. But there's no way that this is possible to have it. After rook c5, white resigned here because black's next move is going to be rook takes d5, and the king and pawn ending is going to be winning. So this was the end to Richard's game. So quite amazing, he played so quickly. I mean, that's bizarre. I mean, like I said, he's I don't know why he's in such a rush. Was he? I know there's a meal tonight, so maybe he was invited to the special meal and he wanted to get dressed up for us. I don't know, potentially, could be. I don't know. He played very quickly, so I'm sure he will slow down in some of his other games. Okay, let's move on to Hari Krishna, who we haven't mentioned before. We'll just have a look at the end of his game, and Hari Krishna's just come straight from a good tournament in Wakenzi, where he had a very good performance, and he beat, he's playing against the top players in the world, so he could certainly be a good contender to do very well here, win the tournament. And we're just going to jump into the end of the game where it's clear to see he's doing very well.
He finds some nice tactics to win this game. I mean, he's up a piece, right, for a couple of pawns. So his position should be, winning anyway, but he wraps it up very nicely.
So after bishop to c1, he goes queen to g1, intensifying the pressure on the c1 square, and now the only way to defend c1 is queen to e3.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah, very nice finish here.
Good players tend to play stylishly.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
the finales of all these games,
Yeah,
they finish very nicely.
very nice tactical solution. Knight to c3 check. Very, very picturesque finish. And
I mean, isn't it funny that most of our games today have ended in tactics?
they have, yeah.
Most of
yeah,
them have,
yeah.
not like positional games, although
Yeah.
Michael Adams did get into a technical ends game,
Yeah.
with an extra pawn.
Sure.
But most of our games have actually finished with a checkmate tactic.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. So it's been very, generally that happens quite a lot, I guess, with, at this level, positionally you get an advantage and then you can use the tactics. The tactics will work for you because of your positional play. So, okay, in the game finishes, queen takes e3, and white resigned here, the point being after rook
Takes e3, bishop a3, and even though the material is equal, the game is not equal, white has no way to stop the mate on c1.
Yeah, so a nice finish to that game. And okay, Mickey Adams seemed to play very smoothly today. He kind of refuted this Evans gambit. Well, I don't necessarily know if he refuted it, but he played a very solid setup, and he was never in trouble. Very solid pawn formation, and the end of his game. Well, just bear with me a second. The end of his game, he won a pawn at some point, and we can see the final.
He probably
position
won the c3 pawn at some point.
which was
what
the
do you
problem,
think?
wasn't it? Yeah, white always had the problem with c3 pawn from this opening. And
Yes, eventually he did win that pawn.
so it really came down to pawn structure this game.
And he didn't even have that much other than just better pieces,
Yeah.
right? The material was limited, but of course, his pieces were much better. And nice little tactical move.
Yeah.
Won another pawn.
And now, as they say, it's just a matter of technique, I guess.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, he played very, very well, and it seemed like it was comfortable for him.
Yeah.
White just didn't have the same level of piece harmony that black had in this game.
Yep. So very nice game there. I mean, there's a number of games we could look at. We've looked at most of them now. So let's now move on to
How about Ulyanov's game?
Yep, that was very interesting, wasn't it, at one stage? So this is
You mean on move
yeah,
10.
very interesting opening. I mean, we'll just quickly show you a couple of moves from the opening because Ulyanov was black, very strong player from Ukraine, and his opponent now played bishop to e2 in this position, which is a very weird move. And just recently, Jobover used this move to defeat Bock at Wakenzi in the B section, and basically he just played a setup after knight to s6, d3, with knight to d2, and very sort of cagey setup where you can obviously claim any advantage. So maybe white's trying to do something similar here, but black now played g6, and we're just going to show you the next couple of moves because there's a very interesting tactical exchange around this point after d4. And d4 looks kind of wrong, doesn't it? Because you've gone d3, you can't really go d4.
And plus you're opening up the bishop on g7.
Yeah, which is now well played.
So, it's funny because his opponent came in to visit us before the round, right? And he said, I think he apologized in advance if his moves didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
right?
Apology accepted. So, and he has.
So maybe he knew what kind of moves he was going to be making today.
Yeah, he was obviously in kind of an experimental mode, I guess.
Right.
And we just see g5 is now played, and you get this very strange position after castle's kingside. And actually, I have to admit, when I originally looked at this position, I said to Irina, "Oh, white's doing well here. White just goes bishop d3, and it's checkmate."
Queen h7 mate, right?
And Irina sort of said, "Simon, no, black's just winning. This is completely untrue." And well, you're right, Irina, because white did play knight to c3, but if something like bishop d3, then I think this rook to e8 move gives the king the square on f8 to escape to. And the problem with this is when you're defending this position, if you've got this dark squared bishop around your king and your opponent cannot exchange it off, so white does not have a dark squared bishop, it's just very difficult. It's
white is not able to put his pieces into attacking positions here at all. I mean, the queen comes into h7, the king is very safe on f8, and what else can you add into the attack?
Yeah.
While your own pieces are still not completely developed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very, very
So
tough.
what we thought would happen is actually what happened. White tried to develop, but he lost the e5 pawn, which he simply can't defend. So he lost that pawn. Black has the bishop here. And black made one more nice move. Moves like that are very instructive. The move c6, which prepares to put that extra pawn in the center with d5. And playing to constrain the knight on c3, so the knight is not even going to be dreaming about like a square like d5. You know, because you can try to develop the bishop on c8 by playing something like d6, but that gives white, you know, at least some possibility of having an active knight on d5. So c6 eliminates that possibility. White doesn't have any central pawns to prevent the move d5, and black sets up this ideal construction. The knight on c3 is also just out of the game. So
Smooth game from black.
smooth game from
Very
black,
smooth.
extra pawn, bishop pair, and just, you know, better position. And then it was just, you know, a matter of winning with that extra pawn.
Yeah, that's right. And okay, maybe now we'll just look at two more games. Let's have a look at Tomaszewski. Not sure that's how you pronounce it. But
Tomaszewski.
okay, so it's close.
Yeah.
So close, okay. And seems like he played a very nice game as white against the King's Indian defence. Only 24 moves, so we'll just look at a couple of critical moments from this game. In this standard King's Indian position, white chose h3, which is becoming very popular now, this move h3. The idea often is to go g4, and, well, black in the King's Indian
They try to
defence-
stop the move f5.
F5, yeah, which is sort of black's main counterblow. And actually in the game, black did play f5, and we can just see how well white's plan worked. Okay, he went g4, so it's really a restraining move. And then after a3 in this position, black lashed out with f5 because he was getting rather suffocated.
Right.
But then we can see how weak his king becomes after a sort of natural sequence, rook g1. And this g4 move is actually a very interesting move. And I think generally there's a rule here that black should really stick to. You only go f5 and white has castle king side. Otherwise you should aim to play on the queen side. So you should aim to play c6 in this particular opening and try to go a4, queen a5. So you can imagine those moves, that's the way black should play this. But you only go f5 if white has castle, because now, as we see, it goes horribly wrong for
Yeah, I think I have a feeling that black maybe underestimated white's decision to trade his bishop for the knight on c5 and play bishop d3.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that's easy to overlook, you know, that your opponent can give up a bishop for a knight.
yeah, and the position just goes wrong very quickly. White can safely castle queenside, and
Yeah, black wins the pawn back,
black wins pawn back.
but
position
he's going to be
speaking.
blockaded on the light squares.
Yeah, the c4 square is often a thing
Yeah.
you find in the King's Kingdom. And okay, well, as the knight now drops in on e4, and a nice little finish here. Again, using these two knights, so the knight comes around to h4.
So today is the day of the knights,
It is.
Simon.
It is. It's my favourite pieces have worked well today.
Yeah.
The knights have done a good job. I mean, Campus's game, very nice game. You can see the knights working well, and in this game, very good use of the knights as well. So maybe the final game we'll now look at is just the only game remaining. So this is Paco's game with white, and it looks like he's going to win this game. So Paco hasn't played for a long time, and we'll quickly just go into that. So my phone is ringing. I do apologise for that. I should have turned that off a long time ago. So bear with me 1 second.
Here, I'll take care of this. Now, where exactly is Vallejo?
Okay, so
Do you see him? Is he in
yeah,
our list?
He was. Okay,
Oh, here
I'm just
it
getting
is.
this game up now. Yeah,
There we
highlighted.
go.
So
So he is 2 pawns up
yeah,
in the end game, right? He didn't manage to win with any sort of
no, forcing sequence, which was surprising.
any force of
Yeah.
any forcing mate. Knight. This actually did happen, and he didn't play f4.
Right, just
He didn't play f4 on move 33.
Okay.
That's what we were thinking about. Yeah, bishop d5 and rook e1 was obvious.
yeah,
Was the
simple.
obvious move. But I wonder if f4 couldn't have worked. I mean, why didn't he like it? Well, we'll ask that question
F4 was very
to
interesting.
the
as well.
computer later. Yeah, that's move 32. So he was just very, yeah, obviously when you play this way, you're just going for a technical win
His next
with
move's
your
very
extra
nice as
pawn.
well. Just grabs that pawn and
Yes,
just wins a simple pawn. You can't take that because of rook e8.
right.
And
I guess we should show that to our viewers. What is the basis of, behind the move knight takes h7 is that if the queen captures, Then rook e8. Winds up winning the queen. And let's say the rook as well. You know, yeah, just to make it clear. So he didn't find checkmate here. Kind of amazing.
Yeah, surprising actually. But
okay, but he has 2 extra pawns.
Yeah. It should be good enough because the bishop's very bad on d6. The only chance is to take the a5 pawn.
Right, there was that chance. I mean,
it's 2 pawn advantage.
I have a feeling like White could have done a better job of winning that position.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have to make it so technical, and now
this is very
trying to win
though.
this.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually that Black's playing on here, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we can win another pawn now.
Because there's the plan of knight to c5 coming very soon.
Well, I mean, in this position immediately we can just take this pawn as well. With
Right.
3 pawns up.
Yes.
So you go f5, and as Irina pointed out, knight on c5 attacks b7
Right.
and a6. So yeah, he's going to win. So really, all the games are now finished. So I think we're just to conclusion of today's events. So
Our favorite game of the day was Gata's win in the King's Indian.
That's very
I
nice,
like
yeah.
too, even though I'm not a knight person.
I'm a knight person. It was a day of the knights today, I think we can say. And this knight to f2 move, we'll just quickly show that again because it really was a lovely move in Gatakamsky's game. It's actually quite
I just feel like this game required more calculation from him. Like, you know, he could have probably won in simpler ways against his weaker opponent, but he took it upon himself to, you know, calculate more and win in a beautiful way. So I think that's the difference. Like the other people who won nicely, well, their positions were easier to play. Here he had to create something, and yeah, it's not every day that you get to make a move like knight f2.
Lovely move, knight.
So he wins our vote for game of the day.
Definitely, yeah. Day of the knights. I mean, look at those knights and queen just
the New York Knights. You know, he lives in New York, and I play for and used to manage a team called the New York Knights.
Okay, there you go. So he's made it work. So yeah, definitely game of the day. I think Kamsky's game for me. Really, not anything that looked like an upset. The only one that might have been close, I guess, was Rapor's game, and he moved so quickly, but he was always probably slightly better. I mean, quite a hard game to really judge. It's going to be very interesting tomorrow because all these guys are going to get tougher.
And hopefully we're going to see some more women on these top boards.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the ratings should work that we can see some of their games already on the top boards tomorrow.
We'll probably get some Grandmaster clashes tomorrow. The lower rated Grandmasters maybe against some of the higher rated Grandmasters. So could be the first day of Grandmaster clashes. And yeah, it's good to be back here doing the commentary. So I guess you've enjoyed it as well, Irina?
Yes, Simon.
Yeah,
it's been a good day.
It's been a good day, and we'll be back tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you at roughly 3 o'clock tomorrow. So thanks. I'll see you tomorrow.